greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job.
Welcome to the Remake Literary License Podcast episode with Keith Shago and co-hosts Vicky Ray and Steve Templeman, discussing the original film and the remake, looking at what was improved upon, where they went wrong, and whether anything lives up to the original. Don't forget to have your say by commenting or sharing links, or just follow us below. Now on with the show.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Well, we used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
Hate is bagging. Life's too short to be pissed off all the time. It's just not worth it.
Life.
See, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns, and those who dig. You dig.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Hello, welcome to the Literary License Podcast, and we're doing Remake. We'll be covering Dawn of the Dead from 1978 and Zack Snyder's 2004. And before we get started, let's find out who's with us. We got Derek Miller with us. Hello, Chad.
What's going on, guys? How you been?
Oh, been hanging in there.
Everybody hanging in there.
And we got Joe Randazzo with us. Hello, Joe.
Hello, everyone.
And Vicky Ray. Hello, Vicky.
Hi, everybody.
And I'm your host, Keith Shago. And before we get started, let's find out what we've been up to. And we'll start off with you, Chad. What have you been up to since last time we spoke to you?
We are knee-deep in the middle of Season 3 of the American Justice Podcast. I've been taking kind of a bit of a horror break, a kind of a writing break for a year or so now, just concentrating on true crime. We actually had one of our cases make it to an episode of ABC's 2020
I've been watching that. I've been following. Very good.
I got my 5 seconds of fame on national TV. My chubby ass walking around Austin. But yeah, it's been really good. There's also a special coming out on the Sundance Channel that they just finished recording on the same case, and it's taken off.
Has anybody gotten any closure yet?
No, and they won't until we can get this guy out of jail. There won't be any closure until we can get this guy. If anybody's wondering what I'm talking about, if you don't follow the American Justice Podcast, I'm talking about the 2005 double homicide case from Rockwall County, Texas, for Brandon Woodruff. And Google that. Find out all about it. Go to AmericanJusticePodcast.com. Find out more. But there won't be any closure until
it's terrible.
We get a retrial there, and somebody confesses to the actual murder. Because as far as we're concerned, and as far as a lot of our listeners are concerned, the real killer and or killers are still running around free out there. So.
That's always comforting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good to know, especially when they're all pissed off at you for making podcasts about them and getting on national television. And
I'm sure it doesn't. The faux pas of the police activity too isn't getting much love.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're not big fans of ours. Although the documentary film that the podcast producer and director has made is actually, they're having a screening tomorrow night in Greenville, Texas. Cue the music, baby. Cue those banjos. In Greenville, Texas, right across the street from the courthouse at the Texan Theater. So
I'm so glad that place is still open.
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It really is. But that's what I've been up to. True crime, true crime podcast, and
you go wrong with true crime.
National television exposure for 5 seconds. So
hey, you did it though, didn't you? Be proud of your accomplishment.
I am. I truly am.
You guys have really gone the extra mile for this guy, so I've been following. Excellent job.
It's really nice to hear. It's really nice to hear when people say that. Thank you.
Yep, good work, man.
And what about yourself, Joe? What have you been up to?
Vicky mentioned in one of our texts that she had been watching The Offer on Paramount Plus, and in the last week I finally knuckled down and went into it. I'm all caught up. I watched all 9 episodes in like the span.
Oh wait, there's one episode came out Friday. I haven't watched that one yet.
Yeah, I'm caught up. I saw the last one. Man, it is so good.
Oh my God. I did not know that was a real horse's head until I watched this show. I had no clue.
I don't know if that's true or not, because it feels like there's a lot of stuff on that show.
I looked it up, and it was. They got it from a slaughterhouse. Really? I was wondering how they got the dead horse's eyes, The Godfather, where the guy's rolling back the bed, how they got him to look so really cool dead, like they were actually a dead horse. Yeah, it was a dead horse.
The thing that struck me about the show. The thing that struck me about the show, watching it with my roommate, is I kept turning around every couple minutes, going, "Oh, Robert Towne, you know who gave him his start, right? Roger Corman. Hey, Francis Ford Coppola, you know who gave him his start, right? Roger Corman. Oh, Jack Nicholson, that's a Roger Corman guy. Peter Bogdanovich, Corman." And I'm like, his fucking specter looms over this whole thing, and I love it so much because when we did
very good.
When we did, what was it? We did Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
When I spent like 20 minutes just ranting about my love for Roger Corman and how much he gave cinema. And in this show, you're never going to hear his name.
But
when you think about all these people who were like the key players at Paramount at that time, Roger Corman was the guy who got all of them their start. So it's kind of cool in a way to see that.
I looked up Mario Puzo and Francis Ford Coppola, and they were like an old married couple when they were writing the script. I didn't know about any of this, and then I had to go out and look it up because it was so funny watching them, eat and talk about their ham sandwiches.
There's a quote attributed to Mario Puzo, and I don't know if it's real or not. Supposedly, since Coppola. And supposedly Robert Towne also may have done some ghostwriting on the Godfather. I don't know if that's true or not either. But apparently he was he wanted to learn more about writing a screenplay on his own. So he went and bought a book on screenwriting. And right at the beginning, he says that the book said to go study the Godfather screenplay. So I thought I don't know if that story is actually true or not. I think it's kind of funny. And I see people post it all the time. It's like, break all the rules. I'm like, at the same time, though, Mario Puzo was working with Francis Ford Coppola, who just won the Oscar the previous year for Patton, and supposedly Robert Towne. So, yes, Mario Puzo's first screenplay won best screenplay, but he was also helped out by two of the greatest of all time. Nobody has that on their first script. Nobody has the previous year's Oscar winner guiding them through it.
Just amazing, all the hell, because they did go through a lot of shit with the Italian American people. The mafia did not want this movie coming out, and I just love how they scripted everything, whether they took some artistic license or not. It's excellent series. I cannot suggest it more.
It is so good, and the final episode airs next Thursday. So
really.
You want to binge it in a couple of days.
It's worth
binge it in a couple of days, and then catch episode 10 next week.
The acting is just outstanding too.
The guy who plays Al Pacino is spot on. Looks like him and sounds like him.
Right down to the eyes. That was creepy weird. I thought that they CGI'd Al Pacino in there for a few minutes because it looks just like him.
Yeah. It is really, really good, guys. If you get a chance, definitely check it out. That's basically what I've done this week is I've been watching that, and Dawn of the Dead, of course. But we'll get to that.
Yeah. That's a given.
What about yourself, Dix? What have you been up to?
Well, of course, I watched Dawn of the Dead. Not doing much around the house. It's just been so damn hot. But I finally finished watching Candyman. I was telling the guys, the new one. I didn't realize that it was a sequel, which made it more interesting. And I didn't think I was going to like it because of all the themes in there, kind of divisive a little bit, but I still enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was a great film. Honestly, I didn't think I was going to like it. I don't really like sequels or the second whatever, but this one really had quite a good story behind it. So I suggest that one. And when I was watching, I was watching Joe Bob last Friday. And I think one of my favorite rants on Joe Bob, he totally took off on a massive rant on the pharmaceutical company. And I could not stop laughing. Did you see it, Joe?
I did see it. I saw when it aired.
I could not stop laughing because it made perfect sense. And it was just funny as hell. You know how he words everything? Like, you're all fucking stupid. You know how he talks to everybody? But it was great. And I finally got a chance to finish watching Monster Club and Hellbender, and I love both those movies. But I was taking all segue for more, and I started watching Brother, Where Art Thou the other day ago, and I could not stop laughing. That movie is just funny as hell.
The Monster Club actually is. I love that movie.
I love that movie. Yeah,
I'm a hardcore fan of it. I have like original theater.
It's kind of it's kind of like, I guess maybe my kids probably would say, "Oh, that's just weird." You know how they interject the music and stuff. The music's the best part of some of it. You know, it has the little whatever in between the stories. They have a different band playing.
Did you catch the background music when Vincent Price and John Carradine are talking?
Yeah,
that's UB40.
Yeah, and then they what is it? There was another band in there too. I cannot remember what it was now.
It's a fun little movie.
It's a fun movie. It's a lot of fun.
I'm glad that people are finally coming around to that, because it's the first horror movie I ever saw, because I used to rent it all the time on VHS as a kid, because I'd walk into the video store and there's this post. The front cover is all these like colorful monster faces with Elvira next to it because she's hosting the video. So I was like crazy about that movie. I used to rent it all the time. And actually, when Keith asked us what we wanted to do as our, the different franchises, I chose the Amicus horror films, and that's one of the last. Well, it's after Amicus already split up, but it's I guess considered canon.
Oh, that's right, because they started doing films when the Hammer films just were no more, and they picked up the gauntlet, didn't they?
They were there towards the end of Hammer.
They were mainly anthology films.
Yeah, mainly. There's some like the Deadly Bees and what else?
The Skull.
Deadly Bees.
The Skull was the Skull. I love the Skull. How did I forget that one? There were a few that weren't, but yeah. I really want to cover the Amicus anthology horror.
Yeah, that would be good.
I feel like they don't get enough respect.
Neither does Attack of the Killer Shrews. It's a totally underappreciated movie.
That's another Corman, isn't it? Or Corman produced it?
I think it is. I can't remember right offhand. But I watched this movie with Emma Watson and Ethan Hawke called Regression. Kind of a sleeper movie, but it's a nice little thriller. If you need one with it's about satanic killings. Totally up everybody's alley.
So it's definitely more recent with that cast.
2016, I believe.
No, check it out.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I think it was. I can't remember if it was on Tubi or what it was. It had commercials, so it had to be Tubi. But
I'll throw it on the watch list on Letterboxd. And
other than that, we're just getting ready for the heat. And what about you, Keith?
Well, I've been notified that the TED Talk that I gave last week will be out on the 19th of September.
What's that?
So the TED Talk I gave 2 weekends ago will be out. It will be edited and out on the 19th of September.
Oh, I didn't even know you were doing one. What's the subject?
How we die. Basically taking cinematic deaths and comparing it to what really happens to your body when you get stabbed, bludgeoned, beheaded, and stuff like that, using more criminology side of things.
We'll have to review it. We got to do a review. We got to do it.
Oh, yeah. Basically, treat it like Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah, we can all have our heads like this, you know?
Well, we did it with but we did it with CGI. We got CGI. Basically, we go into the anatomy of basically what happens, because no one dies within 5 minutes from a stab wound and stuff like this. It's about like if you get stabbed, about how long it takes you to bleed out, what happens to your body, and all the other stuff that happens to you. So, and then so basically, we had to get the film rights, and we got the film rights to show some famous killings in movies and stuff, and then we got the CGI side of it going. So yeah, so that'll be out. So it's all being edited by Anna Napoli, who edits Dario Argento films. She edited Sleepless and Tears for the Mother.
Oh yeah, you told me that. That's very
so
cool.
So it's in Italy at the moment being edited. So
I can't wait.
And then outside of that, I was asked to teach a criminology class at Cambridge in September, which I'll be covering cannibalism and basically how cannibals have grown within our society in Europe.
How do you keep getting all these fantastic subjects, and why you all of a sudden?
My agent's whoring me out at the moment.
Oh, her again.
But yeah, so I'm teaching that. Basically, I'm going to take a spin about how vampirism and where the vampire lore comes from. It comes from cannibalism from the 1300s, and also the werewolf lores and stuff like that, and bringing that together. So I'm doing a lot of research on that and getting that together. But that'll be a 4-week course in Cambridge under the criminology course, which will start from the second week of September and goes to the first week of October. So we go up there one day a week and teach that.
Awesome.
And it's being funded by the Royal Free NHS Trust as well. So that's quite good. So
very cool, Keith. You're always doing something.
Yeah, hopefully it won't bring me many more. I just got a release date for Fallout London. Will be out in March 2023. So I'll be doing some press for that. So
you were writing on that one too?
Yeah.
Oh wow! Congrats.
Yeah, been doing a lot of dialogue for computer games at the moment. Makes good money. It's quick. Except 4 years later when they ask you to do can you use some press for it? You're like, oh, I can't even remember what I bloody wrote. That's like it's just dialogue. But anyway, so yeah, that'll be on March now. So that's the next game. So, but those who are interested, Back 4 Blood's still available on Xbox, PlayStation, and now going to Switch next month. So
going to what?
Going to Switch. Nintendo Switch. It's going to be on there starting next month, I believe.
It's like Twitch is on the up and coming.
Yes, it is. Well, it's taking the place of the Wii, hasn't it? So it's more of a family answer. All the Wii games are coming out. The bowling's out on Switch, and all the Wii Sports stuff is now coming out on Switch. So it looks like it's going to be the new family platform now. So
very cool.
I never touch it. I have one, and I never play it.
I used to play when people came around, and that was it. I never played it when no one else is around. People came around.
Wii? Is it a Wii?
We got a Switch. I never play it. We have an Oculus Quest 2. I never play it. I've got it I've got an iArcade cabinet though, and I wear that thing out.
I would too.
Yeah, Microsoft sent me the new Xbox X series, so I got that now. So it was quite nice. So. But
my roommate's got
I'm just playing the same games I wasn't before. I'm just getting them in a 4K definition now, so it's not like I'm playing anything new.
Yeah, that was the big selling point for my roommate, is that it upscales everything to 4K.
Yeah.
He uses it
for apps and stuff like that for Netflix and Amazon Prime, and all the apps are there. It actually upscales them as well, so that's quite good.
Yeah, we use it as our main Blu-ray player at this point. We just put in whatever Blu-ray or DVD, and it does upscale it, so it looks really, really nice.
Mm-hmm. It'll save you buying 4K discs. So
yeah, which are expensive as fuck.
Well, I bought the 4K disc to Demons and Demons 2, and then plus it comes with the Blu-ray. So I put the Blu-ray in and compared it to the 4K one. Going through
you see everything like you're always saying.
Well, to be honest, you can't see any difference because once the blue scale gets upscaled to the 4K, it looks the same as the 4K disc. So it's kind of
okay. Gotcha. Okay.
My roommate bought the Northman on Blu-ray, and it comes with the DVD and the digital copy, and it was like $10 less than the 4K. When he redeemed the digital copy's in 4K. So he's like, well, why the hell do I need to buy a 4K a 4K Blu-ray of anything when the version that comes with it, if you have a player that can play 4K, upscales it to 4K anyway. So he's like, now he's just buying the Blu-rays, and the digital copy will be 4K, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, best thing to do is a good way to save money, especially if we're at the high cost of living here that we're currently in. So
yeah, I've stopped buying physical medium though. Like I have a Vudu account with like 600 different movies on it, and they're all in UHD. And I've separate times in my life I've had huge movie collections, and then I end up screwing up a relationship and I have to split it down the middle. So this time I can take it with me. It's great.
Let's hope there's no this time.
And
I hope there's no this time too.
Save so much storage space as well. I mean, it's like, like I know, like, I pull out the stuff for, like, I'm pulling out the stuff for next season now, just so I can have it all available. And I'm just like, I have to drag everything out and find it. It's just like, it's a bit of a pain, but yeah.
You do run into distribution problems. Distribution problems, like for Dawn of the Dead, 1978. No streaming anywhere in the United States.
I found it on YouTube.
Yeah, I found it. I mean, this is jumping the fence a little bit. I know we're not quite there yet, but the version I saw was on YouTube, and it was like a 2.5 hour long complete cut.
Yep, that's the one I watched.
The thing about I'd buy older movies on physical media, stuff that is harder to find on streaming, because I realized I pre-ordered the Batman a couple of months ago, and then I'm like, why the fuck am I buying this on Blu-ray when it's always going to be on HBO Max?
Right.
It's never going to go away. Older movies, yeah, some of those might disappear, but all the stuff that's being made now, it's never going to disappear. It's always going to be there.
It's really hard to get the old Dracula movies and Boris Karloff stuff.
No, it's not. No,
but they want you to pay for it. I mean, they just don't stream that shit anymore.
Oh, not the stream, but you can get it. I mean, through Amazon, you can get the Dracula Universal set, and that's only like $20 for the Blu-ray set. In this country, anyway.
It's like $20. You'll get all the Dracula movies. $20. You'll get all the Wolfman movies. $20. You'll get all the Frankenstein movies.
With all the great documentaries with them and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
That's the great thing about. That's one good thing about buying it physical, is the documentaries that you get with it. You don't sometimes get it streaming sometimes. So,
especially
I do the same thing as you do. I buy the older culty stuff on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I mean that's what or the old Warner gangster movies, the old Universal monsters, like various cult movies. A lot of stuff.
Films.
Yeah. Arrow, Vinegar Syndrome, Kino Lorber. I get a lot of that stuff. I don't buy a lot of the major studio stuff anymore because what's the point? It's never going to go anywhere. It's always going to be there.
Yeah, there's a lot of the Harvey Weinstein stuff though that's like tied up in distribution rights. Some of Kevin Smith's stuff, like Red State, you can't find anywhere. Dogma, you can't find anywhere.
You're beating me to the punch. Those are the two. I think those are the only two.
Yeah, I think those are. Yeah, those are the only two, because Yoga Hosers just recently came out on streaming, and so did Tusk. So
Tusk.
I think
that movie just deeply disturbed me for some reason. I don't know why. It just bothered me.
Well,
I watch other stuff that's much more nastier. Like, was it that one we did with the eyeball stuff?
But Tusk is an A24 film.
Yeah,
so, of course, that's why. That explains everything.
Yeah,
I
Red
remember
State and Dogma were Harvey's.
I remember seeing it in the theater with a Q&A by Kevin Smith afterwards in LA. And immediately the first thing he says when he comes out, he goes, "If you guys think this is the greatest movie ever made, I'm going to agree with you. If you guys think this is the dumbest shit you've ever seen, I'm going to agree with you, because I don't even know what it is. This is the best movie I've ever made.
Just
it's
weird.
The dumbest movie I've ever made."
I thought it was going to be something completely different. Then I got into the meat of the movie, and it's just like the ending. I hated the ending. It's just like there was no closure for me. I always have to have closure. If I don't get closure,
that is an A24 establishment for their film productions anyway. I mean, Hereditary and Midsommar and Bodies, which will be coming out soon.
They never have a nice ending. There's no happy ending with that.
I haven't seen Hereditary yet. It was on Blu-ray for $5 at Target, so I picked it up, and it's just like sitting there, and I'm like, I really should see it. Everybody tells me it's amazing, and I've not watched it.
You
I
either
love
love
it.
it or you hate it. That's just what I've come down to, see. I mean, I liked it.
I'm a fan of it, so.
Yeah.
Well, this brings us to Dawn of the Dead, which is a 1978 zombie horror film written, directed, and edited by George A. Romero and produced by Richard P. Rubenstein. An American-Italian international co-production, is the second film in Romero's series of zombie films, and though it contains no characters or settings for the preceding film Night of the Living Dead from 1968, it shows the larger scale effects of a zombie apocalypse on society. In the film, a phenomenon of unidentified origin has caused the reanimation of the dead who prey on human flesh. Sorry, people, I'm fucking this over. David Eads, Ken Foray, Scott Ranger, and Galen Ross star as survivors of the outbreak who barricade themselves inside a suburban shopping mall amid mass hysteria. Romero wanted to make another zombie film after Night of the Living Dead for several years to avoid being stereotyped as a horror director. Upon visiting Monroe Mall in Monroe, Pennsylvania, with a friend whose company managed the complex, he decided to use the location as the basis for the film's story. The project came to the attention of Italian filmmaker Dario Argento, who, along with his brother Claudio and producer Alfredo Cuomo, agreed to co-finance the film in exchange for its international distribution rights. Argento also constructed with Romero during the script writing phase. Principal photography on Dawn of the Dead took place between November 1977 and February 1978 on location in Monroeville and Pittsburgh. The special makeup effects were created by Tom Savini, whose work on the film led to an extensive career creating similar effects for other horror films such as Friday the 13th. In post-production, Romero and Argento edited separate versions of the film for their respective markets. Argento's version features a progressive rock score composed and performed by his frequent collaborators, Goblin, while Romero's cut primarily favors stock cues from the DeWolf Music Library. The film would premiere September 1st, 1978 in Italy first, and then they followed on with the other markets. The censorship board did have problems with this, giving it an X rating, but the Britain loved the film, and although it did bring it to the video nasti's moral panic, which would happen and the film would be banned for 12 years. It was a major success at the box office, grossing $66 million worldwide against its estimated budget of $640,000, noted for its satirical portrayal of consumerism. Dawn of the Dead has received widespread critical acclaim. So what we're going to do is cut to the trailer of Dawn of the Dead from 1978, and we'll be right back.
In 1968, George Romero brought us Night of the Living Dead. It became the classic horror film of its time.
Not that room! Not that room!
Now, George Romero brings us the most intensely shocking motion picture experience for all times.
It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill. This situation must be controlled before it's too late. They are multiplying too rapidly.
Dawn of the Dead.
Meet me on the roof at 9 o'clock. Get out.
I don't believe
We're
it.
gonna
What?
get out in the chopper. We've got to survive. Somebody's got to survive.
They kill for one reason. They kill for food. They eat their victims.
Imagine, if you will, that something has gone terribly wrong.
Shoot it, man.
Now, accept the fact that there's no escaping the horrible consequences. George Romero brings back the dead. Night of the Living Dead has ended. Dawn of the Dead is here.
We must not be lulled by the concept that these are our family members or our friends. They are not. They will not respond to such emotions.
Operator dead. Post abandoned.
We may never get out alive.
It's everywhere. What the hell is it?
Looks like a shopping center, one of those big indoor malls.
What are they doing? Why do they come here?
Some kind of instinct, memory, what they used to do. This was an important place in their lives.
What is it?
We've got a war.
We have spawned our own savagery. Soon it will consume us all. which is a horrible, hauntingly accurate vision of the mindless excesses of a society gone mad.
They must be destroyed on sight.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
We are down to the line, folks. We are down to the line.
Dawn of the Dead.
Hello, welcome back to the Richard License Podcast. We discussed Dawn of the Dead from 1978, and we'll start with you, Chad. What are your thoughts on Dawn of the Dead from 1978?
You know, I've got two really cool memories of Dawn of the Dead. First of all, as a little kid, I remember, this is back before anybody I knew owned a VCR. We used to go to the rental store and rent VCRs. They were in like these crazy heavy hard cases where you couldn't like break into them, but we would rent VCRs on the weekend. It was like a big deal.
Yes, it was.
It really was a big deal. And this is one of the movies that I remember my mom renting for the very first time. And I wasn't into horror, like I am now as a kid. My mom let me watch whatever I wanted on TV. Of course, she didn't care. But I didn't care for horror all that much. I don't think it was until I finally sat down and watched American Werewolf in London for the very first time that I just became a horror freak. But I remember Dawn of the Dead, and I remember her calling me from my bedroom going, "Oh my God, you got to see this. You got to see this." And it's the scene where they're in the mall and they turn on the lights, the music, the everything, and the zombies are all falling over. And I just remember being a little kid and laughing my ass off at that. But I've never seen the entire film. I had just seen that part over and over because I'd rewind it and play it. That's all I knew of Dawn of the Dead until this past week. And then, of course, I said I had issues tracking it down on streaming. YouTube saved that, so thank you, YouTube. The other thing is Tom Savini, who I've worshipped from a very young age. And they say you never meet your heroes. I actually had a table of a few rows down from Tom Savini at Texas Frightmare Weekend a few years ago, and he and I didn't see eye to eye about a lot of things. He wouldn't let me he was at my table looking at books. I gave him a beer, and he still wouldn't let me take his picture unless I paid him for it. So, really. I'm like, come on, Tom, come on, man. Come on, I'll give you a book. I'll give you a beer. Come on, let me take a picture with me. Nope, $30. Come on, I'm a broke ass author, man. Come on, $30.
Really? That's. I didn't know he did stuff like that.
I can eat for a week on $30, man. Come on.
There are quite a few people who are like that, actually. So.
But the only time I meet people like that, they're like poor beggars in third world countries, and they're supposed to give them $20 for their picture.
I've heard stories about Savini being all about the money and nothing else. So
isn't that sad? That's the first I've ever heard of that.
Yeah, and I mean, I even used the line. I'm like, "Come on, sex machine," and he's still the Dawn of the Dead line. I mean, not Dawn of the Dead line.
From Dusk Till Dawn.
From Dusk Till Dawn line.
I love that movie too.
And he would not budge off that $30 for a photograph, even after I gave the guy a beer. He would not.
What do with your $30?
Considering that, I mean, he hasn't worked for quite a long time, so maybe he really needs the money. Because I mean, he wouldn't get residuals or anything. Because you just, I mean, when you're doing special effects or makeup, you just get the flat rate. That's all you're getting. And
he's got his school, and he's so he's probably making decent money off of that. A lot of kids that went to his school are coming out of it now. He did the masks for some WWE wrestlers recently too.
Yeah.
I did hear that.
I don't remember who it was, but yeah, I remember seeing on the news, seeing a news article that a couple of wrestlers in WWE had masks that were designed by Tom Savini. So I was like, he's got them. So
I know it is rumored that the documentary that's on show about his career, he charged them to film a documentary.
What? Which documentary is that?
The one on Shudder.
The one on Shudder. They did a documentary about Tom Savini and his craft and his life, and I
watched that. They paid him for that.
It is rumored that basically this film crew wanted to do a documentary about him, and he charged them to do a documentary about him. So,
Well, maybe
I don't
the
know if
rumor's
that's true.
true.
But
You know what? If they're willing,
alleged.
I don't have anything against taking a chance and asking people to pay you. But and if they're going to do it, what the hell? They'll do it. You know.
He had some Friday the 13th documentaries that he did about 4 or 5 years ago too. That's where he kind of popped up in the public again. And then now he's faded off into obscurity, convention obscurity once again.
Well, I mean, Joe Bob Briggs brings him on every so often. I mean, he gets.
They brought him in for Maniac.
For a fee, probably.
For what?
For a fee.
For a nominal fee, yes.
I mean, he's a god. He's a god in the industry. I won't deny that, man. Just broke my heart though. Just broke my heart. And it was good beer too. It was good beer.
Also, logistically, I think he lives in Pennsylvania, and Joe Bob films in Newark, New Jersey. So, I guess logistically, it's probably really easy to just bring him in. Send the car to pick up PA.
I thought was it Maniac he was on for? There was something else.
Yeah, it was Maniac. It was Maniac because they had him on. They had Lustig on.
Okay, you're right.
Whenever I think of Tom Savini, all I think is Betsy Palmer. She's sitting there talking, and Tom Savini goes up to her. He goes, "We got your son here." She goes, "What son?" She goes, "Oh, Jason." She goes, "Oh, he's dead, isn't he?" She goes, "No, we're gonna see him coming back." And she went, "Oh, okay." And he shows her this the mask of the Jason. She goes, "When did my son become a mongoloid?"
Oh, that's right, because they went from the cloth mask to the other.
No, this is at the end, where he. This is the first movie where he
comes out of the lake,
and she's like, "That's not in the script."
Okay.
She goes, "This sounds in the script." She goes, "When did he become a mongoloid? When did this happen?" so funny. I mean, God bless her soul. I mean, she's passed now. But if you watch Crystal Lake Memories, which is a great DVD set on there, they kind of go into that. But it was
Memories of Crystal Lake, yeah.
But your overall thoughts of the film, then, Chad?
I mean, they say it's one of the best, and I can't argue with that. I enjoyed every damn minute of it. I laughed. I really dug like the limited, just the limited ability with the special effects. There's the limited technology and just how good it all looked. I mean, of course, it's a 1978 film, and you're in your mind you're pointing out, okay, that's cheesy. This is, but still, I mean, 1978. Come on.
Exactly.
I mean, just the blood, the body parts, the gunshots, everything. I mean, it's
the carnage.
Yes, it's so great. I can see why it got banned for a few years. Back.
Well, look, he fought hard to keep it off an X rating because he did not X rating. Back then they equivocated with sexual movies, and he fought really hard for it. But in Tom Savini's defense, he made sure they had the real blue whatever, because during Night of the Living Dead, you couldn't see the makeup, so he wanted to make sure everybody saw the blue makeup in this one. So
I mean, the movie had a pie fight in it. I mean,
yeah. How many times do you see that in a horror film?
Never.
So you're saying you didn't see the full movie until this week for this podcast?
Yes. Wow. Yes. As a child, all I ever saw over and over again was everybody tripping all over themselves, the escalator, the ice rink, the everywhere, all in the mall with the music playing. And then I remember being brought into the living room for her to show me like the rednecks that are camped out in the field and drinking beer and shooting them too. Those are the parts that I remember as a child.
Was this like one of the first movies they used a mall for a setting? Is this where like people started using? I noticed. I mean,
malls are quite a new thing at that time. I mean, the late 70s is when they.
I was just wondering, is this the first movie to use a mall for a setting in a horror film?
And this is what all malls look like now. So it's great.
Is mall still a culture thing in America? Because I mean,
Not
they're
really.
dying. They're dying here now. So
They're dying here too.
Yeah, malls are dying here.
There's a couple in Dallas that are owned by a couple of wealthy families. And
Stonebriar and Frisco still kicking it.
North Park Mall in Dallas is
Still
owned
doing
by
good.
one of the big art families in Dallas, and they display a lot of their art in that mall. So
Yeah.
it's like a dual purpose, but it has more like higher end stores as well. It's right there at the edge of Highland Park.
I can't afford it. I go in just to look.
Hey, it's got a Panda Express and a Seas Candy.
That's all
That's
I
like
know,
all
yeah.
I go there for.
I mean, as far as this movie, I think I think it's the best zombie movie ever made. Just straight up. So that's immediately going to spoil what I think of the second one, because I don't think the second one's even
Well,
compares.
I mean, this one is like chaos right from the get-go. I mean, the apocalypse has already started. You got all these news crews and stuff trying to give out valid information. And there's so much gore and everything else. You got very little theater of mind, like we always say, the less you see, the better the monster.
It also has a lot of character development in it too, which is this has, I know so much more about these characters watching the 1978 film than I do the next one we're going to discuss, because we'll go there when we go there. But
the people it kills get up and kills.
yeah, this had a lot of character development in it. You knew a whole lot of things about every single character in this movie, with the exception of the biker mob. But all the main characters, you knew who they were, why they were there, where they came from, and maybe I need to go back and look at a theatrical cut now, because I've seen the crazy ultimate 2.5 hour long cut. I don't know how much of that was stuff that wasn't originally in the theatrical version.
The original theatrical version is 2 hours and 7 minutes, so you're seeing about 23 minutes more than what was released in theaters. And actually, I think that was the version that might have been the version Vicky sent us. That basically, I think that one takes like all the footage from all the different versions and just kind of jams them all together.
Yeah, it does,
which is really cool, because there's like 4 different release versions of this movie. There's the theatrical cut, the director's cut, Argento's version for Europe, and there's another version in the United States. I don't remember what the last one was.
There's another one in Europe now called the 2021 Ken's film cut.
Didn't even know that existed.
And that was 2 hours and 40 minutes. So that's the one I watched.
What's on that one that's not on the other versions?
It's more gore and more talking.
Oh, okay.
It's cans. It's cans. Like nobody has their armpits shaved.
Right.
It's
Don't even get me started on that.
It is.
I mean, I've seen all the versions, and it's really. I mean, to be honest, it's really kind of hard to differentiate what version you're watching anyway, because the cuts are just so. I mean, there's no changing of a story. It's not changing any character one way or another. It's just kind of a little bit more of whatever.
But my ex-girlfriend about 15 years ago, for one of my birthdays, bought me the huge thick DVD box set of it, and it's got all the different versions on it. A comic book, the Roy Frumke's documentary, Document of the Dead, I think is on there too. Which, if any of you guys love this movie and haven't seen that is a fantastic full-length documentary that was shot while the movie was being made. But yeah, this movie's just it's iconic. It's so great, and I think it's as this subgenre of movies go. I think it's rare that a sequel is better than the original. And this one, I think this one definitely is. I think it's the best zombie movie ever made, because there's nothing in it that like Chad said, watching it for the first time when he watched for the first time this week. I've seen it a bunch of times, and I'm sitting there the entire time. This is like my probably like 10th, 11th viewing of the movie, and I'm still sitting there, still watching it closely. It's just that good. It's rare to see a zombie movie that good, that just on this level. It's a completely different level.
Yeah, put yourself. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Keith. No, go ahead.
I have to sit there saying I'm gonna play devil's advocate. And when I first saw this movie, I watched me and these. I used to like when I was in college. I used to hang out with these teenage girls, and I used to like corrupt them. And we rented Night of the Living Dead, this and Day of the Dead. And we watched all three of them, and I loved them. But I find that I always get a bit bored with Dawn of the Dead after a while. I don't know what it is. I think it's some of the acting is. I mean, I think it's because some of the characters I don't like. I think what I have a problem with. I like the blonde hair guy a lot. I like his character, but once he turns into a zombie, I kind of lose a little bit of interest in the rest of the characters because I think the woman is like, okay, she annoys me. Ken Ferrer's character is fine, and the pilot guy is like, God, I wish they killed him off at the beginning. But the thing is, it's quite funny because, but I do have a love of this film. I mean, it's in my horror favorites really, but I really have a hard time. I mean, I rewatched it for here, but when I go, I should watch the Dead series, and it's like I'll watch Night of the Living Dead, and I really enjoy that every time I watch that.
Right.
But then when I got to this, it's like, oh no. And then I have to force myself to. And afterwards, I go, okay, I forced myself to watch this. Now, where's Day of the Dead? I like Day of the Dead a lot better. And I think I don't know. I know it's all personal taste stuff like that, but I still admire Dawn of the Dead. This is one of these weird things. I admire it, I respect it, but I really don't enjoy watching it for some reason. I'm always a bit bored. I find myself like picking up my phone and fiddling with my phone, or I'll go out and make popcorn, come back. Oh, okay, it's still going. That's me.
We were pretty young when they made this, and so, I think we get, especially us adults, we get spoiled all that fancy.
Oh no, it has nothing to do with that. I think it has to do with. I like George Romero as far as his scripts are concerned, and I like his stories and what his plots are. But I think he's a really bad director. I think he's a horrible director. There's like the cuts are really weird, and the way he frames his films are not very. It's just kind of like, and he never really learned. I mean, like when you watch The Crazies or you watch Martin, and I love the subject matter, and I love his films as far as. Because that's stuff that no one else does. But when you look at the filming side of it, it's very film schooly. Like someone who it just feels like someone who should know what they're doing when they're filming, but not quite sure what they're doing when they're filming, and he should know better by now. And I know because if this was the second film he did, I could understand. But this is like the fifth film he's done now. He's done, he did 4 films before Dawn of the Dead. And this is what he's done. And that's why. And Day of the Dead, he does get better. And then, of course, Land of the Dead, it's slightly better, but not a lot. But it's slightly better as far as the filming technique goes. And, of course, his last Dead film, which he decided to do the Blair Witch Project side of things on it. We'll forget about that film altogether.
He made one more after that. He did the Hatfield and McCoy's Dead movie after that. Because there was Diary, that's the found footage one, and there was Survival of the Dead.
Oh, I think Survival is
yeah, that's where shit kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
Now,
Land of the Dead falls apart as well. It's just like
or the Dead series Wikipedia page said there was a TBA title called Twilight of the Dead. I guess this was something that he was either working on at some point and abandoned, or somebody else has picked it up and they're working on it.
I can actually tell you a little bit about it because one of my close friends was going to produce it when Romero passed away. Justin Martell and the people behind Joe Bob's Last Drive-In were in talks to make that movie. And Romero was sick, so he wasn't going to direct. I think he had written a screenplay and it was in rewrites. And I don't know what's happened to the project since. I don't know if anything is going to come of it. I hope something does. But yeah, Justin Martell of Joe Bob's Last Drive-In was on board to produce it. And I remember I was talking to him in like the summer of like 2016 and 2017. And he was super excited about it. And then, Romero died in like 2017 or 2018. And then I don't know if that just killed the project entirely or what.
Yeah, the Wikipedia page was still listed as TBA, or I guess to be announced. So, but I noticed that yesterday. But it was nice to have a film with the word "dead" in the title, where they actually show the dead.
Yeah,
because I've been watching The Walking Dead for 11 years now. And that TV show is not about the dead anymore. It's
not anymore. They lost me. I will be honest. I've got all the episodes recorded, but I have not watched them. And I think I watched the last episode where they were shooting the rockets off. That's the last one I saw because I just can't get into it anymore.
I'm completely caught up.
I'm so disappointed in where they took this series. Don't get me going.
I'm waiting for the last 8 episodes. I'm a completionist. I'm waiting for the last 8 episodes, but I don't care about Fear the Walking Dead. I don't care about this new spin-off series with Negan and New York City. Although I love New York, and I would love to see kind of like a Escape from New York / Walking Dead kind of crossover.
It's perfect for right now.
Yeah.
They don't even need to do any sets or anything.
But that's where they're taking it. But it was just
Negan's
it was
got
nice.
A spin-off? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it's they keep other characters keep saying, yeah, I'm going to be on it too, and then they're not, and so it's something.
I don't want any more spin-offs. Just let it go. Yeah, let it die. Let it go.
It's a negotiation.
I mean, I guess the problem with any zombie thing anyway, it just kind of reminds me of Clark's too, where they're having that fight between Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, and it says Lord of the Rings is nothing about people walking; it's just people. And that's pretty much what zombies are, because the thing is like. There's never going to be a solution, is it? I mean, I love zombie films. Don't get me wrong, and I do watch them, and I do love them. But if you think about them, whenever it comes to TV shows or films or everything that we've seen about them, I mean, there's not going to be a happy ending at any of it, is there ever?
No.
If you're living, the only thing I've learned from zombie lore that if a zombie apocalypse happens, maybe it's just best to get bitten right away.
Yeah,
it's like
I don't think
like
I
a
can
nuclear
shoot
war.
myself.
If Russia decides to push the button, I'm going to run outside and try to catch me a nuclear warhead, because I don't want to live in there.
I know. I don't want to be around for radiation poisoning either. Just freaking vaporize me from the get-go.
If I'm going to walk, I'm walking around and every time I see Dawn of the Dead anyway, every time I go to the mall, I feel like I'm on set for Dawn of the Dead anyway, because all the consumers look like they're walking dead anyway. It's like all the people shopping.
But it seems like isn't horror going through like a kind of like a 70s renaissance right now? So if they wanted to do more like this, I think now would be the perfect time. Did any of you guys recently see X?
Yes.
Don't get me going.
Yes, I love X.
I love it too, but I want nobody to trigger warn me about the geriatric sex. That's all I got to say. I was like, I was not ready for that. It's just like, I made my husband watch it with me, and I don't think he was ready for it either.
By the way, nobody caught this. The woman's character's name is Pearl,
right?
The old lady. And apparently there's a prequel being made called Pearl that's going to be focusing on her. And I'm wondering, and nobody's asked Ty West, at least not as far as I know, because he shot this was shot a lot like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Very much.
It looked like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre met Debbie Does Dallas. That's what it felt like.
But the DP of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, wasn't that Daniel Pearl? Wasn't he I'm going to look it up. I'm wondering if this is
Google. It's free and in your pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now because I just thought of it now, and I remember watching it thinking, I wonder. And then wait, no.
Did you like X?
I love X.
Chad? I know you do. I know Matthew did. Do you like it, Chad?
I thought it was really cool. I had every intention of going to see it here in Dallas over at the Texas Theater, because that's where I like to go and watch like my older movies or like the newer movies that look older, just because that place still feels like it's caught in the 70s. Is it like somewhere.
The Angelica?
Yeah. Like I like to go to places like that, and just I got so busy I missed it, and then it came out on Vudu. I went ahead and pre-ordered it. and I watched it.
Stop watching. What a train wreck! I love it.
My wife is a lot younger than me, and like the whole time I'm just like looking over at it, and I'm like, you know, that's what it's going to be like, right? You know, and I don't have too much longer to go, and that's what it's going to be like. I just want you to know this. I want you to go ahead and put that in your head right now. This is what's going to happen.
I remember messaging Vicky and Keith while I was watching it, and I was like, holy shit, this movie's about aging out of sex. That's
yeah,
really
you're right.
But
what happened? Warned me. Nobody told me about that. They were actually going to show. And then she's sitting there screaming, "Fuck me!" and all this other shit.
It's just what happens when
I was ready to crawl under the couch.
It's about losing your mind when nobody wants to fuck you anymore.
That's basically what it is. She was horny, and he kept saying, "Well, I'm going to have a heart attack," just like. You know, it's just like, what if I have a heart attack? You won't have a heart attack. Just do me.
I should give you a little bit of statistics here that basically chlamydia and syphilis are growing at the largest amount of growth that's happening is in old folks' homes at the moment. So basically now in this country and in Europe, we now have to test in old folks' homes for sexual transmitted diseases once every 6 weeks because it's growing so rapid in these homes. So
old people, I mean, you know,
just because there's snow on the roof doesn't mean there's not a fire in the furnace.
Yeah. Well, to all the younger people out there who still have living grandparents, we just want you to know that kind of shit's going on the other side of the wall.
That's
when you stay the night there, that kind of shit's going on the other side of the wall.
Yeah,
Trust me.
It is Daniel Pearl was the cinematographer in Texas Chainsaw.
Hell yeah, that's
so
great.
Now I'm wondering if Ty West was purposely paying tribute to Daniel Pearl.
That's a little nod.
Ty West is a big fan of 70s horror anyway. So if you look at House of the Devil.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of 70s references in there with like their names and Mary Wardolph's character.
This was definitely like 70s.
So I wouldn't be surprised because he is a huge fan. I love Ty West films anyway. I love The Innkeepers as well. I love that little spin that he gives on everything as well.
Well, some of the best horror films, in my opinion, that have been out over the last 30 years. That the best ones are the ones who do that 70s throwback, you know,
the campy feeling stuff,
or House of a Thousand Corpses. I never get tired of watching House of a Thousand Corpses.
Me neither. I love
Devil's Rejects.
Movie.
Yeah, Devil's Rejects. I'm scared to death to watch the Munsters, but I
don't know what to think. I mean, I have questions.
I see people on both sides of it already that either love it or hate it. I'm like, there's not enough there yet for us to make any decision about whether or not we think this could be good. I feel like there's not enough out there yet.
I tell people, I'm like, have you ever made a film? I'm like, have you ever made a film? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then how can you criticize Rob Zombie? He's made several. I like the guy. I like the guy's style. I like the relationship that he and his wife have, you know, as far as their work ethic and everything. I have yet to direct a film, so that's August.
You sound like I did a couple weeks ago when I made a few comments on here where I was basically like, we need to be kinder to independent films because, like, a lot of people don't realize when you criticize these movies, especially movies that aren't like not every movie is going to go in and have the fucking budget of, you know, a Marvel movie.
Absolutely,
you can't expect everything to look like that and be that polished. And I feel like a lot of times when people criticize a lot of these movies for their lack of polish, do you understand what went into the film, or do you just not realize that they didn't have as many resources as, you know, a movie made for Warner or Disney or Universal or whoever.
Right.
And I think it's a fucking minor miracle just to get a bad movie finished is a minor miracle.
Right.
So
I love independent film. That's one thing I discovered during COVID was independent film, and I was very grateful for discovering independent film finally. So
unfortunately, the Monster's not independent film though.
That's going to be a Universal thing. Yeah. But I remember when I was
going to have money behind it.
I was going to be a judge at a film festival in Milwaukee, and it got canceled because of COVID. And I remember the first thing I was going to tell everybody there was, congratulations, you just achieved something just by making this movie. Whether it's good, whether it's terrible, you did it. And that in and of itself is an accomplishment because it's so damn hard. Writing a screenplay isn't easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Everybody would have if writing a great movie was easy, everybody would have written a great movie by now. Nobody would be digging ditches. Nobody would be driving trucks. Everybody would be a fucking screenwriter if it was that easy.
No, for real. I mean, my only reason for showing up at KillerCon this year in August is I'm going to spend 3 days. I'm turning my hotel room into a studio, green screen and all, and I'm going to spend 3 days knee deep in the splatterpunk community attempting to direct my first documentary film. But this is already 7 months in the making. I've been planning this for 7 months. This is not an easy thing to do. So I don't like shitting on filmmakers.
And I try not to. When you have all the resources and you fail, like something like what was that Travolta movie from the early 2000s? The space
Battlefield
movie.
Earth.
Yeah, something like that. Shit on it all you want. They had all the resources in the world, and it's laughably bad. Shit on that all you want. Don't shit on the guy who had $20,000 in 3 days to shoot it.
Yeah,
you know that guy did what he could, and it was never going to be a Disney product. You know, Rob Zombie. Yeah, it's a Universal movie. I don't know what I don't know. What
I think people are just ready to be biased because it's Rob Zombie.
There's that.
Right. The question basically is how much control he's going to have over the final edit anyway.
True.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, have you seen his interviews? He'll probably have a lot of control.
I mean, it's supposed to be.
I don't know.
It's supposed to be PG-13, isn't it?
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
PG-13. But he is a director for hire as well.
Yeah,
so
true.
So that's going to create a little bit of thingy.
I mean, people shit on him. They shit on his version of Halloween. I'm a big fan of Lords of Salem. I thought that was a piece of fucking art.
I actually liked it.
I like Lords of Salem as well. The problem with Halloween was it ever going to live up to Carpenter's movie?
Hell no.
You're talking about one of the greatest horror movies ever made.
I like the first Halloween. I liked his first Halloween. Halloween 2, I think that he probably should have kept his wife dead. I mean, bringing her back with a horse was a bit much.
That's right. She was in that, wasn't she?
But I mean, the only problem with I'd say Zombies Halloween is the problem with most Halloween or Friday 13th or Freddy films is that when you show the man behind the curtain, you lose some of the mystique of your horror film. You know, so when you start like the backstory of whoever, in this case Michael Myers, you kind of lose some of that mystique that Michael Myers has.
True.
So it was an interesting white trash version of Michael Myers, so that was a good, it was good for that. But but I think anytime you pull the curtain back and you try to give a origin story to anything, whether it's Alien or Predator or whatever, you kind of lose the mystique of what you originally had anyway. So
I think valid point.
Kudos to him for trying to do something different because the best parts of that of Rob Zombie's Halloween were the parts before it became a straight Halloween remake.
Right. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And I think the problem that we're going to run into with the Munsters is the Munsters was a very specific parody of its time period. And they've tried to resurrect it every 20 or so years. The thing is, you really can't without updating it. Like in the 1960s,
it's like the Brady Bunch set in the 90s or the early 2000s. You know,
they did it right.
I think you're also forgetting about Barry Sonnenfeld's The Addams Family was getting the same kind of stuff before it came out, and then it became a huge success.
True.
So if he gives it that kind of spin on it, well, he's going to have to update and give it that spin on it, or he's going to have to keep it in the 60s. He's going to have to do one or the other. But if he gives it that spin on it and makes it like the Brady Bunch movie. The Brady Bunch movie shouldn't work, but because he has that spin on, so you have the Brady Bunch living in 1990s, but still the Brady Bunch of the 70s living in the 70s background, which made it a fantastic film. Addams Family did the same thing. You had the Addams Family living in the 90s, but they're still living in the 60s, you know? And so you get a good social commentary. So if he sticks to that, chances are you'll probably get a very good film.
But I feel like those two are better suited to be updated. Whereas the Munsters, if you think about the 60s, the Munsters are very 60s and really like it's kind of hard. Like hot rods and famous
Right.
monsters in Filmland, how's that going to translate to now? Because like I don't feel like there's that much nostalgia for that now.
Well, the Monsters is basically Make Room for Daddy, isn't it? Or Leave It to Beaver, basically, isn't it?
It's a parody of that
Monsters.
with monsters. But yeah, it's gonna get shit on because it's Rob Zombie, because it's a remake. I think it's way too early to say anything about what it's gonna be like quality.
It might surprise everybody. It might be quite the good rendition of it, without
Is he shooting it in
everybody.
is he shooting it in black and white or color though?
Color.
Looks like he's shooting it in color because the trailer even says the Munsters now in color, which I guess we're forgetting the Munsters Revenge, the Munsters Today, and all these other versions of the Munsters that were in color.
And sometimes that's what makes it suffer though is the Herman Munster's makeup sometimes can be a bit alarming.
Right.
Lily would look good. What? Well, in black and white, you got away with it. But I remember when they made the movie of the Munsters Come Home or something like this, and you got to see it in color.
Yes, that's right. I remember that.
And I remember like seeing the makeup, and it was a bit like watching a colorized version of Night of the Living Dead. It's
pretty
like,
much.
Okay, this doesn't feel right. So it'll be interesting.
I forgot that Munster Go Home was in color too. Yeah, Munster Go Home was in color too.
Yeah, and I just remember seeing it, and I remember wishing it was in black and white because Lily looked fantastic, but it was Herman Munster's green makeup, sort of thing, and it's kind of like, okay, would he be green? I guess,
I guess. Well, it's supposed to be. He's dead technically, but and most
emerald green,
not emerald green. I think it was a little shock value.
Was he living in Oz? Did he come from Oz?
The thing is, the reason the Karloff Frankenstein makeup was in green is because that's how they were going to get it to look good in black and white.
Right, precisely.
Why would the monster be green if they're using human parts?
Yeah, it just
true. That is a good question.
It'd be gray. I mean, if it was rotted and fresh, your flesh turns gray.
Yeah,
it doesn't go green; it turns gray. And it kind of goes like it's grayish, reddish kind of thing, and then you get bruises all over it where the blood settles because it's not pumping and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that's the thing is I don't know if the filmmakers realized that the reason the makeup had to be green was that that's how it was.
Black and white.
Yeah, you're filming in black and white. You gotta.
Well, it's a bit like M People, which is a black group here. They had a song called "Moving On Up" in the '90s. Heather Small's lead singer, and I remember a friend of mine she was shooting a video in black and white, and of course they had to paint her gray, because black skin doesn't show up in black and white. So I painted skin, and then she's like, I don't understand why her face is all gray and her hands are all gray. And I go, are they shooting in black and white? She said, yeah. I go, that's the reason, sort of thing, because you have to shoot things on different color contrasts. Like, you can't use pastels in black and white. You have to use like solid colors in black and white. But you also have to, be very aware of what's going on behind them as far as the sets behind them and everything goes well. So that's the reason why, like a lot of black and white films, you don't see a lot of texture going on behind them.
Yeah, people don't really realize that because when they shoot something in color and then just remove the color, it doesn't look right because you have to shoot makeup has to be a specific way, lighting has to be a specific way, and it's not just a matter of, oh, we're going to shoot this in color and then take the color away. No, you need to specifically do certain things to get it to look right in black and white.
Yeah. And it's easier to add color to black and white than just the other way around anyway. I mean, Spielberg said that with Schindler's List with the girl with the red coat. He said it's so much easier doing that because if we did it the other way around, he goes, everything would look the way we wanted it to look. It wouldn't look like a true black and white film. It looked like a washed out film. So it wouldn't have the contrast. But even the lighting's a lot stronger. I mean, I think you have to use 10 to 15 times stronger lighting for a black and white than you do a color.
You do. I learned that the hard way in film school.
Yeah. So. But going back to Dawn of the Dead sort of thing, I guess I think it would have been nice if the zombies were probably a bit more grayish looking than the purplish color.
Well, they were technically blue. That's like I think they were using the blue color. Then that way
We
it
got a
would
lot
make
of,
them
we
look
got a lot
more
of
gray.
Argento. Yeah, but we also got a lot of Argento
Blood
red.
You can always tell his films just by the blood. It must be an Argento movie.
Yeah, Argento's blood red.
I remember.
Well, I think that has to do with the coloring anyway. I mean, the coloring is. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, I think the film stock they used was just typical Eastern Kodak regular filming, wasn't it? Coloring. Because I noticed the colors were even with the Blu-ray or the HD version of the film. I noticed that the colors are not. They don't really smack off the screen, sort of thing. So, I imagine he probably used a low-grade coloring for in the original filming process. It looks like.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is more muted. It's. I'm trying to remember now where it was. I remember seeing a documentary where they were interviewing George Romero about going to Italy to meet with Dario and Claudio Argento, and how basically the entire way that they did things over there was so much more relaxed. Like he would get there and it'd just be like 10 days of the Argento family just making these giant feasts, just all this food and just kind of just bringing it out to them. And he's like, when are we going to get around to the writing? We'll get to it eventually.
We do this after midnight. This happens after midnight.
Yeah, first we eat, then we dance, then we have espresso, and then eventually we get around to writing.
Yeah, that's not including our siesta between one.
That's just the way they are over there, though. I mean,
I have to sit there and say though, Argento movie being on a Argento movie set is that if he has a German actress and a Spanish actor and an English actor and an Italian and Yugoslavian, they're all saying their lines in their language. Yes. They're not. None of them know what each other is saying, and then just their lines. They just dub everything at the end. And you just be sitting there going, someone's speaking French and someone's speaking Spanish, and someone's speaking English, and they're just waiting for the pause.
That sounds like hell.
It does, but that's because the film industry in Europe in the early sound era was so heavily controlled by Mussolini, by Franco in Spain, that they wanted. When American movies would come over, they didn't want anything subtitled. They wanted everything dubbed because they wanted to make sure that the messaging got across the way they wanted. So for a long time, and I guess some directors still stick to that in Italy. I don't know if they still do to this day. Everything is shot MOS.
They did during Sleepless and Tears of the Mother when I was on the set for those. They were still doing it.
As of those 15 years ago, they're still doing it. But it was a lot of it was because you had it under those fascist regimes that just wanted to make sure no message from the outside gets out. We don't want them hearing any of this. And it just became like that. But I mean, it's also Argento.
It's still like that though. If you watch television over there, they get a lot of American programming in Spain and Italy and France and Germany, and it is all dubbed. None of the films were subtitled. They don't hear the American accent at all. And though they do get the American accent in ads, which is kind of weird.
Well, I guess in an ad, it's just going to be whatever the product is, so you can kind of trust that a little.
I mean, Robert De Niro has his own voice actor in Italy.
I've noticed that some actors have specific people that dub them all the time.
Yeah, and they make a lot of money. So I remember Zac Efron. They did High School Musical came over to Italy, and it was dubbed, of course. And he said that. He said he's watching it, he's getting all excited because everyone had these fantastic, Italian voices and stuff like this. And then his voice is like, "Oh, mi piace!" Really high pitch. He's like, "Oh shit!" And he said, and Zac Efron said, up until for the next 8 films of his career, that high pitched actor was doing his voice. It's like it only changed when he did the Ted Bundy film and then from a lower actor voice.
He did a really good job in that Ted Bundy film. That was very well done. But
the thing is that if something happens and if that's set there and say that you're doing a sleeper film or something like that, and it does transmit over there. And it's, let's say that you're an actor just starting out, and they probably think, oh, this is only it, so they might just throw whatever voice actor at you. But if you start becoming popular, that voice actor is stuck with you in that country for your whole career.
Jeez, man.
So,
well, I mean, if you watch a lot of Italian movies from the 70s and 80s, you'll start recognizing a lot of the voices because they used a lot of the same people over and over again for all these movies. I think it was
the Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns. Those kill me.
What was it? Città Italia, I think, was where a lot of them were dubbed, and they had like these voice actors that were living in Italy, these American and British voice actors that were living there, and they would dub all these movies and send them out. I think for Argento,
well, the funny thing about it with Dario's films is that, like, let's say opera, the actress is Spanish. So when it went to Spain, her voice stayed Spanish and everyone else is dubbed. The American actor Ian Charles, basically it's in his voice that you're hearing in English, and everyone else is English dubbed. And if they're German, the German actress you'll hear her speaking her real German voices, but everyone else around her is dubbed. So it's kind of it must be like a really weird thing when they get into the sounding. It's like, okay, well, here we go now. It's like, okay, well, we're going to keep her version. Now let's get everyone else dubbed around them, and vice versa for each country.
The places where it gets weird is when you watch like a really low budget Italian movie or Spanish movie from the 60s or 70s or even the 80s, and you have like a Christopher Lee or a Donald Pleasance in the role, and they don't get them to dub their own voice because now you're watching Christopher Lee and you're just hearing this random English guy speaking. You know,
right.
They've got Lee has a very distinct baritone voice, and sometimes you just don't hear it at all. But what I was going to say
the best company who does great with dubbing is Disney. They do the best.
Disney.
So if you watch Tarzan, no matter what country you're listening to it, you're hearing you hear Phil Collins' voice because they have a machine that actually changes his voice to whatever language they want to. So you get the same voice. You get Phil Collins' voice in Italian and in Spanish, and for the music side of it.
That's neat.
And they also like when they do. Because it's such a huge international corporation anyway, that, you know, so let's say Frozen, so when they got Let It Go, they got people to match Idina Menzel's voice in different languages. And you can watch a video on YouTube where you can see the different dubs of the people doing it. So it's quite bizarre.
But that's Disney, one of the biggest multimedia companies, the biggest multimedia company in the world. So yeah, they could totally do something like that. The thing I was going to say about Argento and shooting with no sound is Argento likes to move his camera around so much that it probably benefits him more, that it doesn't matter. We're not recording sound. What you're saying doesn't fucking matter because I just want to get my camera over here and then get it over here and then get it over here. So he's busy talking to like the cinematographer or whatever, I guess. And
Hitchcock did the same thing.
And they both have that same idea, that same view on actors, which is actors are just cattle. They're just.
Yeah,
I think that's a direct quote from Asia Argento. I think she says, "My father refers to actors as cattle. They're just there to move around while I do what I need to do to get my shot."
Yeah. Well, it's the camera that tells the story, not the actors, I guess. So
in his case, yeah.
Yeah, even in Hitchcock's case, Hitchcock was all about the same thing as well.
In all cases, what am I saying?
And probably Brian De Palma as well in the early part of his career. They're probably the link between the three of them there. Hitchcock, De Palma, and Argento are pretty much closely linked as far as the direction styles are concerned.
Lately, I've been watching a lot of film noir, and I started kind of getting into like 70s and 80s erotic thrillers, and I watched Dress to Kill, and yeah, De Palma's kind of the link. De Palma is kind of like the link between like old film noir, Hitchcock. Then he takes a little bit from Giallo, and he almost gave birth to the erotic thriller. Which it's kind of interesting watching that kind of evolution.
Well, even Blown Away and things like that as well. You know, Blow Away with John Travolta and and Carrie, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts about Dawn of the Dead, Vicky? You haven't said too much about it.
I've just been agreeing. No, I guess I thought it was just like I said earlier. I thought it was chaos. From the get-go, because the apocalypse was already going on. It's not like The Walking Dead where you see, the apocalypse is kind of going on, but it's more progressive. Well, it's a series too, but there's really no progressive with this. It's already shit. And so, you got people trying to survive said shit, and they ended up in this mall, which I kind of thought was a really good idea, because if you could have stayed anywhere, that would have been the place to be. There's clothes, there's entertainment, there's food. How they had power, because I imagine the grid is going to go down eventually, and it was carnage throughout the whole movie. And if you're a gorehound and and you still love the older movies, then it was an excellent choice. I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the older cut. I've never seen the I honestly don't think I've seen another. Was Argento? This is where I was getting lost. I saw the older version before, but did Argento do something different and took on and just redid the film with his little...
Argento's soundtrack, I think, is better, but I'm a Goblin fan anyway. I like Goblin's music. I loved it in Suspiria, and I loved it in Cavuto Lusso, and the soundtrack's different. You have a different
okay. I was trying to figure out what was different.
Movie. It's still the same movie. It's just, it's a different...
It's got more gore, more talking. But, I was trying to envision how he was struggling really hard to keep this from being an X movie, because, when you think of X movies, you're thinking of, X-rated movies. You're thinking porn. And he fought really hard. They wanted him to cut the shit out of this movie, and he did not want to cut it all and just totally butcher it. But he fought really hard, and he asked for a non-rating to squeak by.
Yeah.
And I think that it was filmed in the cold in Pennsylvania too. I mean, these people were freezing their nads off when they were filming this.
I mean, normally if you have, the thing is, if you want to go from an X to an R, it's not too difficult. You just kind of have to slice a second off here and there, sort of thing, of like part of the gore part of it, which is what they did with like Friday.
Turn on TV now.
It's what they did. It's what they did with Friday the 13th, and it's what they did with other films of that thingy. It's like, they'd like sliced out like a second or two of like the killing or the blood gore, or the blood. Instead of having like 2 seconds of the blood pouring out, you might just have like the blood just starting, and that's it. And that's how they would cut it to get an R.
Who was it? Galen Ross was the female actress, correct?
Yeah.
And they said apparently when he was telling her, they wanted her to hold back her screams for some reason. And every time she screams, she loses some of the strength she supposedly possessed as a female character. So George knew this, and it was the last time he asked her to scream for some reason. I guess because little bitches don't scream. I'm trying to understand where he was going in his direction of this.
Well, he wanted. Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
I mean, the thing is I think this is one of the first horror films where we kind of get the antagonist of a feminist character, a woman that's basically doesn't have to be protected or chaperoned or
she was pregnant in the movie too, so I guess.
Well, she's pregnant, but at the same time, she does give a whole speech that basically she's going to be in this mall with him. She wants to be an equal. She wants to know how to fly the helicopter. She wants to be able to fight. She needs to be able to protect herself. She can't depend on these people to do it for her.
Right.
So we find, and I think for 1978, that like having the black hero character, Night of the Living Dead, we've now got a female character that's now breaking a barrier that Night of the Living Dead did with the black character.
Right.
So, and to have her screaming and being the victim or being the Pearls of Pauline character, probably wouldn't be the best way to play it. I mean, she's quite useless.
She's a little flaky at the beginning, but she does.
Well, she's a bit useless at the beginning. I mean, when Pilot guy's fighting with the zombie guy and that sort of thing, she's just standing there going, but you might want to hit him over the head or something. I never
understand why they got women in the background and your old man's getting his ass beat. They're trying to eat your buddy there. It's like, break something over that motherfucker's head. Do not let it kill your friend. It's like, what is going on with this? If you normal people, I would probably do whatever I could.
But we also get a female also, is that when she gets assigned to the female roles that are expected of her, that of course causes friction within her relationship with the pilot. When she's cooking the fondue for dinner.
Yeah.
Or,
also,
he was a douche though.
Yeah, he was an asshole. I didn't like him. I think that's I hate that character, and it didn't help that
could have gone a lot earlier.
But it didn't help that character, that her boyfriend, the pilot, and her kind of look like brother and sister anyway. They kind of look alike.
They do. there's, and I don't know if this is intentional. There's a little bit of like, and I'm guessing because it's after the civil rights movement of the 60s, you know, we're about 10 years after it. There seems to be like a little subtle tension between Flyboy and Ken Foray's character.
Yeah.
And then he seems like jealous of him. Like, I don't know how to like that. Like there's a little like there seems like there could be a little bit of chemistry between Galen Ross and Ken Foray, and it seems like it upsets Flyboy. And I'm wondering if that was an intentional statement on
it might have been
people becoming a little more accepting at that point of interracial relationships in the 70s versus 20 years ago.
I don't think you were imagining that. I think that there was something to that.
Well, I don't know if it was intentional. I definitely felt like that was the case. I don't know if it was an intentional thing or not.
Well, I mean, you look at Night of the Living Dead. Who was the hero? Who was saving everybody's bacon?
But that was just a circumstance because they said Dwayne Jones is just the best actor of the group.
Yeah, it wasn't written for him. He just happened.
Yeah, it was just they were just this small.
But I'm just saying, But I mean, he was. I mean, this was at a time when a black character would not be elevated. So
Yeah. So yeah, I wonder if it was intentional or not that they kind of wanted to kind of put that little tension in there. It's never spoken, it's never flat out stated. But then again, nothing in this movie is.
No.
Well, maybe the stuff.
I mean, he was the strong guy, though.
Yeah,
I mean, he was the strong, dominant male.
He was the masculine. Yeah, he was the masculine one. I mean, let's face it. The pilot guy was kind of a little bit of a Nancy boy, wasn't he? Really.
He just needed to die a lot earlier.
Well, but I mean, his character is basically like this Boy Scout who thinks he's tough, but everything he touches is basically. I mean, he's the reason why things go to shit at the end anyway. I mean, when the crowd goes in, it's because of him. He's also the one that almost gets Ken Foray killed at the beginning because he doesn't know how to fire a gun properly.
Oh, that's right.
But he not to bring that one up, but he points the gun at him and says, "Never point a gun at anybody. Scary, isn't it?" Fucking fantastic.
And that guy's getting behind him every time.
Yeah, Roger's getting behind him, like knocking the gun out of the way and then just blowing off a zombie's head because he's a terrible shot. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And, and I guess, for me, I kind of wish that he was the one that got bitten and the blonde-haired guy is someone that lives. Because the blonde-haired guy I thought was fantastic. I thought his acting was really good. His acting was actually his acting was above everyone else's in the show as well. So it's kind of like, I don't know where he came from or what he's done since, because you kind of see the other pop up here and there and different things. Ken Foray, of course, we covered I think last week, didn't we? Didn't he pop up in, what did we do last week? Or Book the Screen, he's in that, wasn't he?
Which book did we do last week?
Your Book to Screen last week was From Beyond.
From Beyond.
From Beyond. Yeah, he's in From Beyond. He popped up in From Beyond. So he's in that sort of thing.
He's a horror icon at this point.
Right. Yeah, Zombie uses him a lot too. So,
yeah.
I mean, back to Zombie. Zombie owes us all lunch. We've talked about Rob Zombie so much in this episode. He owes us lunch.
He owes me an interview. He owes me an interview.
Texas Chainsaw 3. He's in that. He's in a ton of stuff. Like I love Ken Foray at this point. Like he's one of those guys that slept on in the 80s and 90s. Didn't really seek out movies because of him. But now I'm like, looking back, I'm like, yeah, I really like him in everything I've seen him in.
He's a powerful character actor.
Well, even the chemistry. Yeah, but even the chemistry he has with the blonde hair guy is fantastic as well. You know what I mean? He has chemistry with all of them. The couple, I found the couple the weakest in the movie. Actually, I thought that
they had
okay, but it's not that they had issues. It's just that both their acting wasn't that great. It's like the other two were really good actors, and their acting was kind of like passable. It's like you didn't feel anything for her. I mean, if she got killed or got thrown over the edge, I don't think you.
I know, as a male, as a choice of a man, like to be the father of her child, and as a protector, she just did horrible. It's better to just get a gun and fucking shoot zombies on your own and wait for somebody to save you. Just the way it is.
In a society that hasn't fallen apart, he's probably the one out of the three that probably was making the best money, and you don't plan for an apocalypse. Yeah. So he's probably, when she's choosing her mate before the world fell apart, he's probably the one that would stand out because he's a pilot, he's going to make more money versus, the two cops. And interestingly enough, like when I remembered this movie, I remembered Foray and the blonde guy being buddy, and I kind of felt like, okay, were they like really close friends that ended up in this thing together? And I completely forgot. No, they met during that raid early on in the movie.
Yeah, right.
Like they have so much chemistry together that when you see them on camera, you think they've been friends for 20 years.
Yeah, they had a really good rapport amongst each other. I mean, what we know about the blonde woman, I can't remember her character name at all. I call her
blonde woman.
I call her
yeah.
the boring gay woman. That's what I call her because her name's Galen or something in real life, isn't it? It's called the boring gay woman.
Yeah, she's like a really successful documentary filmmaker now.
Yeah, well, before this, I mean, we know about her character basically is that she's a news producer, isn't she? Or and that.
So maybe Romero based that on her actual character because she's either won or been nominated for a couple of Oscars for documentaries or something like that, or some major awards. I don't remember which ones.
I guess they had trouble with the zombie actors too. I guess they were drinking way too much at the Brown Derby, which was in the Monroe Mall. They stole a golf cart one night, crashed into a marble pillar, and did $7,000 worth of damage.
That's the film I want to see.
Were wild.
Well, yeah, I know at one point, and there's one segment in it that's probably about 10, 15 minutes long, where I'm sure it was all the zombies would bring your kids to work day because they had all these kids in there at one point.
True. I mean,
we're just bring your kid to work day. I'm gonna put you in the movie.
Well,
Did they say that they something about to get extra zombies? Now, this could be the 2004 version. I could be wrong, but they're giving out a T-shirt, a cup of coffee, donuts, and maybe $1 to seal the deal to get extra people to be zombies. I'm trying to remember which.
That's what you do with extras. With extra, when you hire extras, you normally give them in this country. You give them $30. They have to come with their own wardrobe, and if they're shooting, you give them lunch, but you normally give them like a really cheap lunch. You don't give them the lunch that everyone else is getting.
Yeah, no, they don't get the fancy actors lunch. They get the peasant surprise.
When I was working as an extra in LA, the bigger studios would like give you like a pass to the commissary to go get whatever you want, and it's always in LA by law. They have to pay you minimum wage up to 8 hours, at least minimum wage up to 8 hours, but they always paid a little better than that. Anything after 12 hours was anything after between 8 and 12 hours was time and a half. Anything after 12 hours was double your hourly. So movie shoots are long, so I made a lot of good money working like a day or two on these things. But yeah, usually
and if you get a talking line, you even get more money if you just get one line.
And you got to eat. Eating is good.
They would, but yeah, it would be like you'd have your voucher, and if they gave you a line, they'd mark something off on your voucher because now when you bring it at the end of the day and then they do payroll, they have to now up your rate. And yeah, it was depending on the shoot. Like I was on, I don't remember. I was on a TV show where like the extras were all segregated for everybody else. We were, we got like shit food, but then we're, when you're on the Warner lot, they have like donuts and stuff there that you can go take, but it would usually be like after the leads and everybody gets what they need, then the extras can go. But on the Warner lot, you'd get like 2 or 3 vouchers to go to the commissary and get, up until it's up to a certain amount. You get whatever you want up to a certain amount of money. So it depends on who it was, but sometimes they were super cool.
Some of the extras are quite funny though, because you do have your professional extras who basically think that basically they'll go, they'll go, oh, there's Helen Mirren. I've done 4 films with her so far. And you're like, what? and they'll give themselves character names. So like fourth man on stall. They'll go, oh, my name's Henry. I had this stall for 7. They'll give them like a background history of their character and as an extra in this part. My name is Henry, and I've owned this store for. It's like in the script it says, stall owner. Lead character passes by stall owner. Passes by a stall. That's it.
Beheaded woman.
You'll talk to him and he'll have his whole history down. But his family's owned this stall and it's handed over to him. He'll give you this history. And like, okay, do you have any speaking lines? No. So you're next.
That motorcycle gang was the Pagans, and I remember them when I used to spend summers in New Jersey. That pagan motorcycle gang, they were pretty big on the Eastern Seaboard once upon a time, and that was actually a motorcycle club, marauding gang, or whatever you want to call it back then. They were nice guys though, but I mean they used their own motorcycles too. I don't know if they got anything extra for that.
I would say that I would sit there and say though, the motorcycle gang weren't the brightest bulbs in the pack, wasn't it?
Well, I don't think they were supposed to be, were they?
Well, I don't know. I mean, okay, they apparently have fought their way through to get to the mall, sort of thing. So they fought through the world devastation, and they get to the mall. They go into the mall, and of course, they're killing the zombies and letting them all in.
And tearing up their last resources.
But what is it, the guy with the sombrero who decides that just before he leaves the mall while everyone else is getting eaten and die, he needs to check his blood pressure? What is it?
I don't know what the fuck that was. See, that was so random, it wasn't even funny.
It's like, why are you sticking your fit? Why now? It's like,
I know, but there's zombies everywhere. He just stops and sticks his arm in the cup. It's like, what is wrong with you? He had it coming. That guy deserved to get killed. He just had it coming. Mm-hmm. That was a justifiable death as far as I was concerned. But
I have something to say that I think Romero, when it comes to action sequences, I think that's where he comes. He does have a good persona for that actually. Because once the zombies take over and they get in there, the tension really builds up at that point. So,
I mean, the tension's always there, I feel like, except for that little montage in the middle where like
we're bored with our life in the mall.
Yeah. And then immediately you hit the golf ball, it falls on the ground, and then it's like, wake up, this is still going on out there.
Yeah.
Which is just super cool. I really love that.
I've seen enough zombie movies and zombie series and everything else that I will survive the apocalypse, damn it. I'm just going to unload my unuseful, unworthy friends.
Well, I'll be fine for about a week shooting people in the head, and then after that, I'll probably just be bored.
We'll get to that in the second movie.
That's true. We will.
But there was something that came out like a couple months into the first COVID lockdown, where there was some news article that said that fans of horror movies were better equipped for the lockdown because of their experience watching like zombie movies and stuff.
I heard something about that shit. Hey, we were ready. We know exactly what to do.
Like they were. Like the first month or so, horror fans were taking it a little easier. Like they were like, oh, okay, yeah, we've seen this 1,000 times. We know how this plays out.
Look, man, I'm not gonna lie. The first thing I did when they put Dallas under lockdown is I went and bought a couple of new handguns.
Yeah, you need it because what's mine is also theirs, and what's theirs is going to be there. Yeah, you can't trust anybody.
The interesting thing about coronavirus, though, that if you rearrange the letters, you get raccoon, like Resident Evil. Like Resident Evil.
I never even thought about that. Oh my god!
No, it's the monkeypox now. So I'm going to be sure. If anybody looks like they have leprosy, just don't touch them, guys. Okay?
No, you have to have no. I mean, okay, let's get the monkeypox thing sorted out first of all before your media runs off in another direction. It is a virus that spreads through bodily fluids. So unless you're having sex with someone who has monkeypox, you're not going to get it. So
that means wrap that rascal.
That's the reason why 98% of all cases of monkeypox tend to be homosexual at the moment, because basically, if you need stranger love, just make sure you're wearing a glove. That's it.
Charlton Heston looking down at his crotch going, "You damn dirty apes."
Yeah, you damn dirty apes. Get your hands off me, you damn.
Actually, when monkeypox, I had to go to because I was on the monkeypox ward here at work last week, and before the Jubilee, and so I was there. I worked there on all day Wednesday, and And before that, the week before that, they go, okay, well, you're going to have to go on the ward on Wednesday because they're short staffed because we got COVID starting all over again here again. So a lot of people are off of that at the moment. So they give me like this seminar, and they talk about monkeypox. I go, and they go, it comes from Africa. I go, isn't that a bit racist to call it monkeypox? I go, didn't Roseanne Barr lose her job because of it?
Yeah, it is kind of racist when you think about it.
And the infectious disease control guy said that no, it started from a bite of monkeys. That's what
it started from a bite.
Yeah, so
we always have to blame some other poor animal for our debauchery and disgusting behavior.
I blame that monkey from Friends who was an outbreak.
Oh my god! Yeah, blame the bats, blame the monkeys.
Stop eating bats.
Where's eyes? So I think one other question about Dawn of the Dead. Do you think that the consumerism satire that this movie now has, is now known for? Do you think that's what it was originally?
I think it was. In this case, I think it was.
I don't think
do you think he saw that beforehand, or do you think that? Well, do you think it was before? Do you think he had that in mind when he was writing the script, or do you think it's because this is what was available to film in, and that's what gave him the idea for consumerism?
Well, he even says that's what was available to film in.
Well, that's what they said, but it's a bit like at the end of Night of the Living Dead, where Dwayne Jones basically gets killed and they get thrown in the fire, and then now that's looked upon as like, oh, this is like a social commentary about black rights in the 60s. But at the time, that's not what it was about. That's what's come out of it now. That's looking back on it.
Well, it was a valuable message that got sent.
Well, to be honest, it's just that he happened to be a black actor, and that was the ending of the film, and that's what happened. So,
but that's what happened with it, though.
I think in this case,
as an afterthought, but it wasn't the thought. It wasn't the thought process.
No, I don't think it was purposeful. No,
I think in this case, it was because there's lines of dialogue in there of who are they, and they're coming, they're coming to the mall because this is just something that they remember, some happy memory. I think that's part of it. I don't think it was accidental in this case. Whereas in 1968, I think that definitely was a happy accident.
Right. I just never hung out in malls.
I think that's it too, but I was just kind of wondering because this does go in hand with consumerism in 1978 America, and Dawn of the Dead is considered that. But I was, I thought the same thing as you did, Joe. So I was just kind of wondering if everyone else had the same thought, because sometimes things get kind of tagged on after a film's released, and it's like, oh, it's meant to be this, and it's like, was it?
Yeah, but where does the consumerism? I mean, I see it's a mall, and they're making fun of everything in said mall. So I bet the malls weren't that huge yet in '78. It wasn't until the '80s that they really blown up, and everybody wanted to go to the malls. I mean, we didn't have a mall in our town. Well, I mean, you can't miss what you never had, so I just can't. We didn't have a mall until when was that built?
90s. Probably in the 90s, wasn't it?
The latter 80s. No, wait, it was built the latter 80s because I remember, because I worked there at a bookstore. But
I came along after I left, but yeah, malls became a big thing in the 80s anyway. It became a lifestyle, wasn't it? Where, you go to the mall to hang out. Old people will sit there and do their exercises going around early in the morning.
They still do.
Yeah, so it was kind of,
my parents used to go walking in the mall all the time.
I think it was also in the way like they grab the money from the bank and stuff, and it's like
just in case.
I think the point of that is, well, what's the use of this stuff? You don't really need it. You're never going to need it again because society at that point
your bum
completely falling apart. So that money's completely worthless. Yet they're taking this photo where they're shaking hands and holding up this big stack of money. And I think that's part of Romero's message in this one. I feel like the first Night of the Living Dead, totally accidental message. I feel like all the ones after it, I think he actually intentionally put a message in it.
Well intended, maybe because he saw that the other one had a message without him realizing that was put forth.
Because you get when the military and the government doesn't listen to science, and the next one, then you get the
military taking over. for
Yeah,
Day of
the
Dead,
inequality,
military.
the financial inequality in Land of the Dead, and it goes on and on from there.
True.
But I think in the sequels, I think he did actually intend to put those messages in it.
Yeah. So basically, when you watch the Dead films by Romero, you can travel Romero as he gets more and more woke as each film goes by.
I don't think he was woke. I mean, I think everybody. I don't think it was woke.
Well, I mean, I guess the consumerism and stuff like this. It's at the end of the day, instead of like fighting,
It's ridiculous now because just think of it. I mean, especially during COVID, the new normal. I mean, consume. I mean, I've never been bombarded with so much, advertising, and it's so. I mean, you can't watch a movie on TV or anything without bombardment. I mean, I've pretty much muted for the next 30 days, most of my whatever I follow because I can't stand the ads anymore.
Were you talking about product placement within side films, or are you just talking about commercials in between?
Just in any production anymore. I mean, it's all about consume. I mean, just think of the 80s, Pepsi cans everywhere, Wheaties, I mean, Now I notice that a lot of times they hide, especially in soap operas, they hide the brand and make up a brand for it be on set. I mean, so you don't see it like you used to.
Well, I mean, how did Apple grow? Apple grew by making sure that their computers and phones were in every single TV and movie that you saw for about 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Every time someone turned on a computer, it was an Apple, wasn't it? So
it's always an Apple. It's always an Apple.
The masters of advertising was Warner Brothers in 1989 for Batman.
Oh yeah, that was
refresh my memory.
Everywhere.
The Tim Burton Batman, when it was released in 1989, Warner Brothers just saturated the and everything's been like that since. But before that, I don't recall product placement quite like that. The Warner Brothers, they were gods in advertising.
Well, it's how you get a bunch of money up front, so your movie's more successful on the back end. You get somebody else to pay for it. But interestingly enough, my roommate brought this up, and he had started to notice that in any kind of mystery or anything, the villain is never using an iPhone. And apparently, he says that there's kind of like this unspoken rule where Apple will not allow you to use an iPhone if the villain's going to be the one using it. I don't know how accurate that is, or if there's any documentation.
It probably is part of. I imagine it's part of a bit like that.
He was able to.
Was the bad guys use burner phones?
He was able to correctly guess the killer in a murder mystery because he's like, it's the one guy not using the iPhone. And then we watch it till the end, and sure enough, and I don't want to spoil it by giving away what the movie was, but it was a major movie. And sure enough, by the end, it's like, holy shit. And he's like, yeah, every movie he started noticing, he's like, the person who ends up being the killer is the one person not using the iPhone. And this might have just completely ruined mysteries for everybody out there now.
I'm looking it up because it's going to drive me nuts.
No, the guy.
Well, it makes sense because it's a bit like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You're right.
Has it written that you can never show Arnold Schwarzenegger in a bad light in anything because that's part of his contract. Why wouldn't someone who's doing product placement have that in their contract? Makes sense.
Yeah, like Terminator, he was a bad guy.
So wait, did you just look it up?
I did. It says, trying to figure out who the bad guy is in a movie, look for the character who hasn't touched an iPhone. Rian Johnson, the writer and director of Knives Out, revealed that Apple will permit film productions to use its products on screen, but with one very big caveat: villains cannot have the iPhone on camera.
Well, you'll notice.
I just learned something new again.
but if you look at things done in the last 3 years, you'll realize that Apple's being used less and less, and it's now Microsoft Surface that's being used now. So
I noticed that. I'll keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, if they have the Windows symbol at the back of the computer, it's Windows, the Windows Surface, and the phones are all Google phones now that they're using. So,
right. But I also
Google. That's true.
But I also don't watch a lot of modern movies really anymore. I watch a lot of older movies usually. So.
I've been watching a lot of the older ones. I try so desperately to avoid COVID films or films that were done during COVID, but I'm starting to break down.
So what we'll do is let's get to rating. So, out of a score of 1 out of 5 zombies, how many zombies do you give Dawn of the Dead for 1978? Starting with you, Vix.
5. 5 for gore, 5 for just, I thought it was excellent. I thought it was funny. It's an ultimate zombie go-to movie. I mean, it is what it is, especially, I just love the old stuff. Who hasn't watched it?
Chad, just recently.
Chad, that's right.
Yeah. It was yeah. I mean, I saw what I needed to see when I was 10 years old. I saw zombies and pie fights, and yeah, that's all I needed to see.
The pie fights, I forgot about that. That was fun. That really was.
And how many? What about yourself, Chad? What do you rate it?
Yeah, I loved it. It's one of those that I would probably go out and search for, like a Criterion collection or something, like, with a lot of special features. I want to know so much more about, like, the style, especially since I'm starting to lean more toward, like, filmmaking now than I am writing. Just like I said, it was campy, it's gory. It's very classic. It's got that 70s feel, like when you watch it.
Sex though, there isn't no teenagers getting it on or anything.
No, there's teenagers.
Dead teenagers. There aren't even any teenagers. Were there?
There were zombie children in this, and that's something that The Walking Dead has rarely done. I think whoever said that was
take your child to work day was probably 100% spot on that one.
But they weren't afraid to kill them either. I mean, these people were killing younglings before Anakin Skywalker
they were blowing
made it
kids
cool.
away left and right. Wait till you guys see the movie I watched today. Jesus.
I mean, I catch hell because I killed a baby in like one of my previous novellas, man. I catch so much hell for that.
Keep it real, brother.
They're like, this guy's obviously a misogynist and a racist and a baby killer.
Racist. I know. If you kill anything, it's racist.
Yeah.
You're all racist.
But no, I love it. It's definitely a 5-star movie. Like, you couldn't recreate the feel of this film.
No, you can't.
I mean, and lots of people have and will try, but you can't. And it's also one of those films that you can put it on in the background while you do other things. When you're done folding laundry, those fuckers are still going to be in the same situation in that same mall.
They're still blue gray people trying to
still
you.
Blue gray people.
And what about yourself, Joe? What do you rate it?
I mean, it's a 5-star for me too. And one thing we didn't really get into is how this kind of changed filmmaking in Italy too, because you had its own separate little like spin-off, because in Italy it was titled Zombie. In 1979, you had Lucio Fulci making Zombie 2, and then it just kind of took off from there. Everything became a zombie sequel. They went back, and movies made before Dawn of the Dead got retitled Zombie 3, Zombie 4, Zombie 5 in different markets. Like there's various different versions. So this kind of started an entire filmmaking movement and kind of broke Lucio Fulci out too, in a way, just because he made a successful, quasi sequel. Extremely 5 stars for me. Extremely well made, and just it's pop culture wise, like it's huge to the community.
And it ages well.
Hugely influential. So yeah, absolutely. 5
Every
stars.
zombie movie we've ever seen has to nod to this one in some capacity, and that's all the way to The Walking Dead or any of them. I mean,
Dead Rising, the computer game. So
that's right, Dead Rising. That's right.
Well,
Except
I'm going to get
a motorcycle gang. You get a cult.
Yeah. And 1, 2, 3, and 4. I am going to give this film a 4-star rating only because I really like a lot of it, but some of the long-winded dialogue kind of makes you. I have difficulty staying awake for it. That's the only thing. I love
there's
the
a lot of stuff.
There's
a lot of stuff.
I love the ending of it, but it's the middle part that that drags me down a little bit. So.
They could have shortened some of the conversation and dialogue.
I don't think it's shortening the concept. I think that if George Romero wasn't such a stagnant filmmaker with camera angles, if you made it more interesting when they're talking, I think if the editing was a bit better on it, I probably wouldn't mind as much. But
it was a
four and a half. Thank God for the zombie Hare Krishna. That kept me entertained, though. So that kept me going.
I just like the wide array of zombies.
All
walks of life.
I met him at a convention. I was taking a piss in the men's room, and he walked in completely still in character. Like he was weird. The Hare Krishna zombie. I met him in the men's room in Louisville, Kentucky, which just sounds like a far seedier story than it is.
We have questions. We need a little backlighting.
There really was nothing more to it. He walked in full
regalia,
full costume and everything, and I was washing my hands when he walked in. He was kind of a funny dude, from what I remember. He was, when he saw somebody was in there, he went back to kind of playing like the zombie characters. I was like, all right, it's fun, it's cool.
Brings us to Dawn of the Dead, the remake, which is a 2004 American action horror film directed by Zack Snyder in his directorial debut, from a screenplay by James Gunn, a remake of George A. Romero's 1978 horror film. It stars an ensemble cast that includes Sarah Polley, Bing Rhimes, Jake Weber, Ty Burrell, and Mikel Pfeiffer. Scott Renger, Tom Savini, and Ken Foray from the original film also make cameo appearances. It was Snyder's first feature film, having previously worked as a television commercial director. Set in Milwaukee, Dawn of the Dead follows a group of survivors who take refuge in an upscale suburban shopping mall during a zombie apocalypse. Producers Eric Newman and Mark Abraham developed the film rather as a re-envisioning of the original Dawn of the Dead, aiming to revigorate the zombie genre for modern audiences. Newman and Abraham were handed the rights to the original courtesy of the producer and rights holder Richard Rubenstein, and then Gunn was brought on to write the script, which adopted the original basic premise, but is oriented around the action genre. Snyder came on board to direct with the goal of keeping every aspect of the production as grounded in reality as possible. Filming took place from June 9th to September 6th of 2003 on location in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, where a now functioning defunct shopping mall that was slated for demolition was used. This special effects makeup for the film was created by David Leroy Anderson. It was released on March 19, 2004, and the film topped the box office on the United States opening weekend. It went on to gross $102.3 million worldwide against a budget of $26 million. This is the spiritual successor to Army of the Dead, which was released on Netflix in 2021. So before we go into talking about Dawn of the Dead from 2004, let's cut to the trailer.
All right, guys, I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee. I'll be right back.
Hey, Vivian.
Hey, now look, I can go backwards.
Let me see. Hey, that's amazing. Hey.
Hey, you. Vivian? Honey, are you okay?
Officials have declared a state of emergency. Everybody they kill gets up and kills.
Residents are advised to find a safe place and stay there.
I've just been informed that we are going off the air and switching to the emergency broadcasting system.
Look up the road, there's a lot more of them. Why are they coming here?
Maybe they're coming for us.
Sooner or later, they're gonna get in here.
Our baby's gonna be fine.
It's only a matter of time.
It's coming.
They'll find a way in.
Oh, God.
Hello, welcome back to the Literary Lex Podcast. We're discussing Dawn of the Dead for 2004. And starting with you, Joe, what are your thoughts of Dawn of the Dead, Zack Snyder's kind of a classic film now?
It's kind of considered a classic now.
It's like 20 years old and it's a classic film.
I mean,
that wounds me deeply.
I mean, generally, that's what it takes, I guess, when you think about it. Because when we were, in the 90s, people considered The Godfather a classic, and that movie was only 20-something years old.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I don't hate the movie. I just
a butt coming
after, I saw it in the theaters, and I remember not liking it in theaters. I watched it again right before Army of the Dead, and I was like, okay, it's grown on me in that time. But then watching it immediately after, like the night after I watched the original Dawn of the Dead,
right,
it pales so much in comparison. And this, Zack Snyder's fans are, they're gonna hate me forever for this. Whatever, I'm, piece of shit. Whatever. Yeah, I'll get it out of the way. Total piece of shit. There's nothing you can tell me that I haven't heard before. So Zack Snyder fans, have at it. His movie's not as good as Romero's. It's still a fun movie, like Vicky said at the beginning. Like Vicky said about the first one. This one hits the ground running too. Right. You get, there's something going on in the hospital. What is it? We don't know all this. Wait a minute. This guy who's in a bar fight is in ICU. What happened during that bar fight? You don't think about, they don't think about it because whatever. I'm going home. It's the end of my shift. She gets home. She gets in the shower with her husband. There's something on the news, some kind of breaking news. We don't know what it is. And it says specifically, we're just going to have the update on it and then back to your regular programming. Okay, so he's setting it up so that they're going to go to bed and they are going to know nothing about it. Then the next morning, the little neighbor girl shows up and it is off to the races.
That's right. I forgot about little neighbor girl. Well, no, little neighbor I thought it was their daughter for some reason.
No, they don't have a daughter.
Okay, it was the little neighbor girl. Why did I keep getting that screwed up with something else?
You're thinking of Resident Evil.
Oh, maybe. But
or even Night of the Living Dead.
Either way, she was a hungry little twat, wasn't she?
Even Night of the Living Dead, it's the daughter that ends up killing Carl Hardman and.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination.
It's fun.
I like it. It's fun. It's the only thing is I feel like nobody's as likable in this movie as Ken Foray and the other guy are in the original. Like I feel like almost everybody in this movie is a douchebag, except for Ving Rhames and Sarah Polley.
Right.
Who I actually like, and I like the guy in the gun store, and you kind of feel for him a little bit.
The rich guy's a douche.
Well, the rich guy's a total douche, and then one of the heroes turns out to be a guy who's a douche because it's the head of security. When you meet him, he's a complete and total douchebag.
Oh, he's a total douchebag.
Completely hate him, but then he kind of starts to come around a little bit, so he actually has a little bit of an arc. But everybody else kind of doesn't because they're just kind of there to be I guess kind of stock characters. There's the rich guy who just kind of sees everybody as disposable. Like the effects are, the effects. I don't feel like even the effects are as good as they were in the 1978 one.
They were a little different. But I had to ask you something because I want to know if you knew about this. I read somewhere that James Gunn, he's directed a lot of movies, TV, whatever, but he faced a lot of backlash over penning the script for Dawn of the Dead. Have you ever heard of that? He got actual handwritten death threats for writing a remake.
Did he? That's ridiculous. I mean,
I was just wondering because I printed some notes that I had found on that, and I was wondering have you heard that?
It's probably because Romero has the Romero heads that hang around, and they're very, very protective with George Romero. So their death threats are probably from the Romero fan club.
Look, if you're gonna attack a remake of a Romero movie, not this one. There's so many worse remakes of Romero movies than this one.
I don't even consider this a remake.
That's true.
It has the same title. It has a couple of the people from the original making cameos here.
Right.
But other than that, and they're in a mall. Other than that, I mean, those are circumstantial. I don't even consider this a remake.
They said that they didn't. They said diehard fans of Dawn of the Dead didn't really want the writer of Scooby-Doo touching their beloved property. So yeah.
Hey, first of all, we got to back off the Scooby-Doo here because I love that Scooby-Doo movie. I love that Scooby-Doo movie.
I know, knowing Lloyd Kaufman, he was super proud during this time because, James Gunn.
He talks about that. He really thinks the world of him.
He wrote the number 1 and number 2 movie at the box office. A Troma alum wrote the number 1 and number 2 movie at the box office during this time period because Scooby-Doo came out around the same time. So that's super cool. Dude, don't attack film. Write death threats to filming. It was a fucking job. Like the guy paid.
But people think that some people they have breaks with reality. Okay, they don't realize that some of this shit is just fantasy.
Star Wars fans are the worst, man. Star Wars fans are the worst.
They are.
Sometimes I often wonder when they start reporting these things about death threats or whatever, how much is that perpetrated by the marketing team to get people interested in it?
That's true. That's true.
They could have got one person go, "Oh, if you mess this up, I'll kill you." That's probably the death threat. And then by the time it hits in the media and on the company here, I think it's Warner or
Universal in this case.
Universal probably. Oh well, I'll tell you what. Let's say you get tons of this, and we can spin this, and let's bring this out like 3 months before the film comes out, and let's get the powers to be, because nothing. What makes you want to go see a film more? One that has controversy in it. And and then you see the controversial film, and you're like, "This is really shit." If it wasn't for the controversy, I probably never would have seen this.
Well, even the guy that owned the rights, was it Richard Rubenstein, who co-produced the original Dawn of the Dead? He had been really hesitant to let this project go through for a while.
Well, because it was the one that wasn't ruined. It was the one Romero title that he owned that hadn't been completely destroyed yet. Because Night of the Living Dead, because they screwed up with the copyright. Everybody and their mother was able to remake it. There was a version in the 90s where somebody took the original Night of the Living Dead and shot extra scenes and re-released it as his own movie because it's in the public domain. Day of the Dead had a really shitty sequel.
I remember that one.
So this was the best Romero movie. They wanted to protect it. So I totally get that aspect of it. And as far as and I'm circling back to what Chad said, the one thing that I was going to say is a very, very big positive that I have on this movie, watching them back to back, is it's not the same movie. They could have easily fallen into becoming just a fucking, just copying everything from the original. And aside from the basic idea of survivors of a zombie apocalypse stuck in a mall, it's a completely different film.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I completely applaud that aspect of it. Comparing it, watching it after the original, I'm not as big a fan as this one. Not saying I hate it. It just.
I have Joe's address for any of you people out there that need it.
Well, look, man, the zombies in the original film were obviously human beings who turned into a creature. In the 2004 remake, and I use that term loosely, they immediately changed and they turned into fucking superheroes or something. They're like some kind of wild animals.
I know, they were just all over the place.
That's actually the reason why that happened, because Universal had the distribution rights for 28 days later.
Right.
It became a huge hit. And because of that, Universal said that if you're going to make this film, the zombies need to be fast moving, because slow moving zombies were considered passe.
But see, even The Walking Dead,
2004.
I don't even know if anyone remembers this. I'm sure Vicky does. But in the very first season of The Walking Dead, I want to say it's either the second episode or the third episode. I think they kind of lost track of who they were and what they were doing there for a second. There is one scene in the very first season of The Walking Dead where all the walkers take off running. And it's the only time in the whole series where they go
were in
faster.
Atlanta.
Yeah, they were in Atlanta, and they were trying to get the moving truck or whatever it is back to the shopping center. Go figure.
Glenn.
Yeah, exactly.
They're after Glenn.
And they take off running, and it's the only time in the whole series where they take off running.
Shit, that's true. That's true.
I don't know. I've always been, when it comes to my zombie stuff, I've always been a bigger fan of like the Romero slow, lumbering, but problem solving. Romero's zombies solve problems.
Yeah, they got to open doors after a while.
Open
They got
doors,
smart.
climb ladders, they knock out headlights with rocks. That's in the very first Night of the Living Dead. They knock out the headlights of the vehicle
For any
with
of
a
you
rock.
guys that watch Stranger Things, did you think when they were in the mall? I was thinking Romero in that final episode before it was back in July of Stranger Things. Keith, did you watch it? Where they're in the mall, and I just kept thinking.
I think the mall has something. I think the mall.
Well, it was the '80s again.
I think it has more to do with like Night of the Comet and those kind of.
You think?
That's next week.
Oh, that's right. It is Night of the Comet week. Yay! I love that movie.
I like my zombies to be, more of a slow, lumbering horde rather than.
It's creepier that way.
Yeah, rather than the screaming,
but there's so
running.
many of them. It's like Legion,
Well, I think the problem basically is that 28 days later they are not zombies; they are infected human beings, which is totally different from dead people rising.
And they can boogie like
zombies are.
Well, did you ever see the zombies in Train to Busan? Those are nuclear mutants. Holy shit, man. They crawl up on top of each other and make land bridges.
Train to Busan does that better than any movie I've seen.
I have never seen anything that compares. That is
well, get ready for it
badass
because
movie.
they have greenlit the American remake of it. Get ready.
Train to Boston.
Please tell me now. They're going to ruin it. Leave it alone.
They have greenlit the Americanized remake.
Leave my Korean horror alone. They're going to fuck it up.
But I don't mind them doing that in 28 Days Later, and I don't mind them doing that in Train to Busan. This is supposed to be a remake of a Romero film, and it's like the very first scene where there's an undead person in it. It's just they're screaming and growling and frothing at the mouth and running at you, and that immediately took me out of this film the very first time I saw it. I'm like, well, I'm done.
Well, at least they kind of give you some backstory. I mean, they've got where the neighborhoods are starting to fall, and I mean, there's some. At least they give her at least a little backstory. Her mate gets killed, and little girl just.
I mean, it's enjoyable. I mean,
it doesn't suck. I mean, it has a lot of good moments.
It has a lot of great moments.
My favorite is where they're shooting the dead target.
Yeah.
Yes.
Burt Reynolds.
That's the best thing in this movie. Burt Reynolds.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Rosie O'Donnell.
My wife is my wife is younger. She's new to horror, and if I was going to show her one of these two films, I would probably show her the Snyder one because it's more exciting. It's got more. It's the more Michael Bay of the two films. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, and Snyder's a good director, and so is Gunn, and the two of them are two of my favorite action kind of superhero movie directors right now, and this is where it all began. They
create a whole mall from scratch.
It's really good.
Now, for me, Dawn of the Dead, I actually enjoy this film a lot. I love, but I think it's fun. I think for me, the reason being because I am a huge Sarah Polley fan. I loved her in The Sweet Hereafter. I love The Weight of Water, and I loved her director when she directed Splice, which is one of my favorite films.
She's a fun actress as well.
She's a very serious. She actually wrote, she wrote a lot of the scripts for Handmaid's Tale as well. She does a lot of writing and directing now.
Right.
She does more of that now, but she's kind of very, very respected. So for her, I think that's the reason why I like this film so much. But I also like the way that this one. I like the way that it quietly, basically reveals itself before the shit hits the fan very quickly. But there are also things I've also noticed in this film that if you listen to our previous shows when we did Anne and the Apocalypse, where basically when she's running away and she's in the car, she's running away. I just remember that Anne and the Apocalypse actually recreated this whole scene where she's dancing and all the zombies coming after and running off off, and they actually recreate that scene in Anne and the Apocalypse. So there's a lot of things that when I was watching this that I actually enjoyed a lot more because of that, because I noticed that there are things in this movie that they actually took the that actually take a piss out of other films I do like. And so it gave me more of an appreciation for this.
Right.
But yeah, I say that once they get into, and I also like the ending of this film a lot, where the simple fact that they being who they are, but the thing being who they are, they're all stupid. Yeah. And so and they keep that stupidity all the way through.
Yeah.
Which that's like quite enjoyed. It's not like, and then when they get to the island, basically they're fucked. They're dead. No one survives.
Well, the
and
dog gets it first.
Well,
they don't eat the dogs. That's right.
I like it that they had a downbeat ending to this as well. I'm glad that they kept that in, sort of thing. There are some other things that didn't make a lot of sense. Simple thing like bringing it. When they bring Terry Ann, if you're listening to this, I'm really sorry, but when they bring Terry Ann in on the wheelbarrow. And yeah, and I have to sit there and say, it's like, she looks really ill. It's like, what are you doing? She's not going to survive.
Well, obviously she was going to die, and they had her in the back of the truck, and she went downhill.
Yeah, she was already turning blue.
Well, she came in turned blue. And she looked like an extra from like Lord of the Rings. I mean this one, she wasn't an attractive woman to begin with. I don't know. She's there in her dirty slip and she's got great big bite marks out of her, and they thought this was a good deal.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I go, if it was me in the mall, you can wheelbarrow that bitch back out where she came from. That's
I would have put my foot down.
Go ahead, Keith. Go ahead.
And then there's also, there's other little things that, though I do enjoy watching in the movie, but the pregnant wife of Michelle Pfeiffer,
I thought that was cool.
She's obviously a Russian bride that he met at a brothel or something, who's had her passport taken away because she promised a job in America, and then he finds her. I don't know how these two got together, but that relationship is just kind of weird.
Yeah, but how he keeps her chained to the bed while she gives birth to her.
Well, she's probably used to.
I
think she was a Russian stripper before they got married. I'm not sure.
I can't remember either. Now that I think I've seen this movie like 4 times, and now I'm going to have to go back and look it up. But what I did appreciate about these guys, though, is they actually wanted to create zombies based on reality color schemes, and they actually were looking up like they were going through crime photos and looking at fucked up bodies and stuff to make sure they had it right. It's like there was a lot of research went into their zombies. I liked it.
Well, Joe and I were discussing earlier in the show that there is very minimal character development in this version. Like the original version, you get to know those characters so well, but in this version, you don't have to really know them because they kind of played into those like 2004-ish, Mad Libs movie stereotypes. You got the straightforward, serious cop character who nobody listens to. You have the suburban cutie blonde chick. You have the weenie white guy. You have the suburban gangster wannabe, along with the person with an obvious handicap, which is the pregnant one. And then the obviously racist redneck trio of security guards.
Right.
I
mean, it's
gotta have them assholes.
The movie starts out with those, and then you get the other people who come in too. But those are the main characters throughout the movie, and it's like it was 2004 was those early 2000s films. That's what they were. They would just fill in the blanks with these stereotypical characters, throw them in any situation, just add water,
like reality TV. But
right. It's multiplex movie making, isn't it? It's for the multiplexes.
Yes.
This movie kind of reminded me of.
You got to make sure you have enough showings going during the day, so it makes back its money, and it's multiplexing. I mean, they want Matt Frerer. I mean, Nicole's father. I mean, they could have left Tim Burton because his dentures would have fallen out anytime he tried to bite.
No
it
shit.
anyway. And then, but the only person I was really upset about dying was Jane Eastwood. Was Norma, the middle-aged female truck driver. I really liked her. I would have liked more of her.
She was a genuinely likable person, yeah.
And I loved her in the Santa Claus. I liked her in Hairspray, the movie. I liked her in Finders Keepers and all the other stuff that she does. She's a fantastic Canadian actress. And so when she went, I was actually a bit upset with her. And Ty Burrell was quite nice to see him play someone who's like an asshole instead of like the dim-witted father from Modern Family.
Yeah, he went from being the biggest douchebag in this movie. My roommate pointed this out, and then he was like one of the most lovable dads on television like 10 years later.
No shit, I know. He was a total douche canoe in this movie. But did you guys did you think of the movie Feast sometimes when you were watching this? It kind of, I don't know, where they're all stuck in the bar, right? They got the right movie where the monsters are coming in. And it's just the characters kind of just seemed like they were almost like they had the same group of characters, but it was a different movie. I don't know why that was running through my head.
Beast, like the Project Greenlight movie that the horror movie that came out of Project Greenlight that was set up. Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about it. I know the movie you're talking about. I guess I didn't really put it together, but yeah, it does kind of have.
It just seemed kind of similar, yet not. But do you know that also the blood changed different colors in this movie? I didn't know this till I started reading. It was composed of normal red blood, and the second is browner and drier, and the third consists of the tar black and oily consistency. So he changed the color of the blood. And they applied it like free-flowing, clotted, and dried for older zombies. I didn't know that. I thought that was interesting.
That makes sense.
This came out about the same time. This is when the Resident Evil franchise was like still pretty fresh. And,
are we talking about just the video game, or when the movie started coming out?
The films? The video game. I love the video games. The films to me have never come anywhere. Never came close to the video games. The films never did. But this was, those movies were coming out, and then this, and then there was the remake of The Crazies, which was another Romero,
I love
right?
that movie.
Yeah, and just
that's a Romero remake as well.
Yeah, you've got you just have all these these really action eccentric zombie movies all coming out at the same time. And I'm not saying
that's
this is
true.
a
That
bad
was
film.
made in the earlier 2000s.
This is not a bad film at all. It is not a bad film. I would show this one to my friends. It's action. It's gore.
There's no boobs. No gratuitous sex.
Oh, whoa! Yeah, there is.
I don't remember boobs.
I've got the extended cut. I remember boobs too.
Yeah.
I didn't see boobs.
Yeah, he's banging around the treading machine.
Him, the douchebag. Okay, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
But I mean, it's a good film, but is it the superior film? Not by a long shot.
No, but it's a fun film.
It is fun.
It's a fun film. I mean, if you're looking for artistic mastery compared to Romero, probably not. But
if the Day of the Dead remake that came out a couple years later is far worse than this. That was the one by Steve Miner. I remember I saw that one once. I never watched it again. I didn't like it. I completely hated that movie.
Which one was that, Joe?
It was the remake of Day of the Dead that came out a couple years after this. There's also Day of the Dead 2 Contagion that came out shortly after this.
I know that. I don't think I've seen it. I didn't think I've seen it.
That one's completely unwatchable.
Is it?
If you're gonna talk about bad remakes of Romero movies,
this is it.
There's far worse than this. This is actually a solid remake. This one and the 99 of the Living Dead I actually like. I never saw the Crazies remake.
Crazies remake is really good. It's excellent.
Is it? I got to check it out.
I think it's great.
I think it's better than the original, actually.
Yeah,
and they're far more crazy. Let's put it that way. They're bad shit.
You get crazier over time.
I mean, it's just I often wonder how much Hollywood knows about our future, because between that and the Simpsons and then all the Contagion movies that have come out prior to 2020, it's like fun.
And David Cronenberg.
Corona Zombies. Anybody watch that?
I did watch that. I like Corona Zombies.
Horrible film. Funny though. I had to watch it.
I like Corona Zombies because it's basically What's Up Tiger Lily, just done with Hell of the Living Dead, and then Charles Band shooting a couple scenes in his garage with two.
It's good clean fun. It's good clean fun.
Yeah, he made it in like 20 minutes, I think. But
Instant movie.
But I was gonna say, even David Cronenberg, when you watch like old Cronenberg movies, they are like Videodrome, when you watch Videodrome and then you look at the state of social media, you can kind of see Cronenberg
It's
kind of knowing
amazing,
back
isn't
then.
it? If I was in college now, the thesis I could bring up as opposed to what I did when I was a younger girl. I mean, it's just the anthropology of it all. It's just fascinating. It really is. They had to do 50 zombies every single day for approximately 65 days of filming. That's crazy.
That's amazing.
13 weeks between June 9th and September 6th of 2003 for this movie. That's a lot. A lot of zombies.
God, how can anyone stand to be in Milwaukee that long?
What's that?
How can anyone stand to be in Milwaukee that long? Keith said an upscale abandoned mall in Milwaukee, and I'm like, isn't that like against the law to use the word upscale in Milwaukee in the same sentence?
Well,
no, that's Detroit.
They actually filmed this in Toronto.
Oh, did they film it in Toronto?
That's why all the actors are Canadian. That's why there's a lot of Canadian actors.
It's cheaper in Canada still. I think they still like to go to Canada to do their films, except for Georgia. But
yeah.
I just want to take this moment to say hello to all my friends in the Milwaukee horror community that might be listening to this podcast because I'm on it.
I get shit on the American Justice
Milwaukee.
Podcast. I get shit on all the time because I'm one of those guys who's traveled everywhere, and I get shit on all the time. We'll be covering a case from a certain city, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I've been there. Fuck that place." And just we get hate mail, like hate email.
I think I got a couple from my hometown because me and Keith always roasted every time we're right.
I actually asked Shanta if she wanted to do this one because I know she loves Dawn of the Dead, but she's got her kids and everything, and she lives in Milwaukee, so she this would have been great if she was here.
I have to say though, I mean, this film is number 3. This film has been noticed one of the greatest zombie films made though. It's in the top 5. It's in top 5 of the Rolling Stones Empire magazine. It's one of the best openings. It's part of the 22 best zombie movies of all time by IGN, and
I like the newer one that just came out on Netflix better. To tell you the truth.
Was it Army of the Dead? I hadn't watched that one yet.
I love that one. A lot of people hate it, but I like the badass woman zombie.
This one had.
I like it. Just don't think
2010 and 2020 apparently. So
this had a great soundtrack though. It starts out with Johnny Cash, and then it's got that kind of crooner, kind of Sinatra version of "The Sickness" by Disturbed. That's so good.
The Richard Cheese version of "Down with the Sickness," which I fucking love.
It was so good. It had great soundtrack.
You get a chance to look up Richard Cheese. He also did a bunch of Cannibal Corpse songs in that style.
Holy shit.
And it's great. It is just hilarious. I love his stuff. He's hilarious.
I mean, I think with this film, I think that I do agree that the first 20 minutes of this film was excellent.
Yes.
I would say the first 20 minutes of this film, I think does bypass the original Dawn of the Dead. Because I think there's so much.
The setup, you mean, to everything that leads to whatever?
The first 20 minutes of it it's very, very good because I'm talking about from the moment it first starts through the thingies and until basically she runs off until she gets to the mall. I would sit there and say this setup is better than Romero's because that was kind of very chaotic. You understand why it was chaotic, and it's kind of like it's really hard to focus about what the hell was going on.
Well, you're talking about that as opposed to the TV scenes where they're doing the news and it's chaotic. And
the parts where they're inside the tenement and killing black people, doing the whole racist thing there, that commentary.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
But then when they get to the mall, I think that's when the George Romero one actually gets it. And unfortunately, because the majority of the film takes place in the mall, that's why George Romero's one equals. But I have to say the beginning of this I like the best because I love the setup. I love that when she gets in the car crash and she opens up and then they go and they look over at the mall and then they head to the mall sort of thing.
Well, then what I will do is I'll start working on the Shago cut where we take the best part of Romero with the best part of Snyder and we just make it one good film.
It could be an ongoing film.
Yes, and we can put Sarah Pauli bopping around with the other characters, and I'll never CGI her in.
One good film and one great film, because that's what they are. Like, I think the Snyder one is good. I think the Romero one is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I do agree with that. There's just something a little, I don't know. I mean, he had his own finesse to that, to his film, and they just couldn't quite tweak this one to where it would meet that standard. But it was still it was just fun. I always just looked at it as fun because zombies aren't real for the most part, right?
And I mean, if we go ahead and we put our money down right now, we can probably get Amber Heard at we can probably buy her a bill of groceries and get her to be in it right now. So
I was told, and this is due to grapevine,
with an all-female cast, so that way no one gets accused of anything.
We're not upset about the Me Too movement. Me and Keith are anyway. But when it comes to that, he's not going to make her pay that $8 million back. He might be a stand-up guy and let her keep her money.
We get her. We get the cast of the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot. We can get. I mean, there's just so many people out there need a job right now. We can do that. Yeah. We can be the people who give them that job.
Keith are out of the movie making business. We learned the hard way.
I made one movie that was enough. So we're getting that. But but I think this Day of the Dead. I mean, I said before, I really like the first 20 minutes. I think it's fantastic the way that the sort of thing, and then and the way that it's filmed and everything like that. I thought was beautiful, and then of course
it was. It had different visuals for sure.
Well, I think that they unfortunately fell into the mall cineplex thing.
Talking about the glamorama of the mall.
Well, no, it's the character sort of thing. That basically, we got these people and they're founded to be killed, sort of thing. So we don't really need to invest too much into them because they're all going to die anyway. And the thing is that they had lesser people in the mall. I think it wouldn't have been. It's a bit like you can watch superhero movies. Like, okay, Iron Man, great, one villain, fantastic. Next one, 2 villains, okay, not as good. There's too many people in this book. Third one, 3 villains, and by the time you get too many people that it's hard to keep track.
Yeah,
and I think there's film troubles with that. There's too many people that you can't keep track of them, and because there's so many people, you can't tell their story anymore because there's instead of telling 3 or 4 people's stories, now you're kind of forced to telling 12 people's stories in a 90-minute film what is that 190?
It was just one of those films.
110 minutes.
They get so far, though. You think that they're going to be okay, but they're not. It's kind of a letdown. Just like, fuck, can't one of them live?
Well, the problem basically is it's really hard to tell a story of 12 different individuals in a 2-hour time setting.
Yeah, I know that.
Look at Walking Dead. They had difficulty getting one person's storyline through for 12 seasons.
My roommate has the original DVD of the remake of Dawn of the Dead that came out, and that's what I threw in last night because I don't think it was streaming anywhere. And when I went into the bonus features, I found a 20-minute video diary that was it's just the guy in the gun store
at the end.
I don't know if it was going to be something that was going to be
a supplementary video.
Yeah, there's the supplementary 20-minute thing with the guy in the gun store just basically just talking into a camera, and it's like a little found footage thing, and I don't know if it was going to be edited in or what, but I found that was so gripping, and it's just 20 minutes of this guy talking into the camera, talking about what's going on outside.
About the guy up on the roof, right?
Yeah. At one point, you see him grab a gun. He's like, "Hey, the cop in the wall, and I found this little game. I'm going to go up there. I'm going to pick off the zombies." I'm like, this was super cool.
I loved it. He was the best part.
Oh my God, he's the world's first TikToker.
Yeah, seriously. But he was one of the best parts of the movie, though. Because he's all by himself, and they're writing notes and letters, holding up signs to each other from across the way. Obviously, they can't communicate. They send the dog over with food. The poor dog. I can handle anything. It's like, don't send the dog. I'd rather see people die. I'm sorry, I'm just that way.
And in a way, even though he doesn't speak a line until right before he dies, he has this sort of arc where at first he's like, yeah, oh yeah, we're not going to get any help on what else is new. But then by the end, you see him holding up, "I'm hungry." And I'm like, shit, he has his own little arc where you really genuinely start to feel bad for this guy.
Well, he's so isolated and so separate. He's on an island unto himself, literally. Not that they're not on an island unto themselves.
And it's kind of
But the other people have human contact where he has no human contact at all as well. So he's going on as well.
He has the one thing that they could use, which is the guns. And he needs everything else that they have: the food, the human contact. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting little arc that he's got there too, and I really enjoyed that.
I do think this film, if they didn't bring that truckload of people and that woman who looked like Carrie Ann into the mall, I think that basically this film probably would have been great.
I agree. I think just.
So you thought that was just too much?
I think that they brought those people in so that way we can have they wanted a high body count. And that's the only reason why they're there. And I think, that has a lot to do, if you look at the horror movies of that time period, the 1990s to 2000s, it was all about how many people we can kill very quickly. You saw it it got to the point where even Scream 2, Scream 3, and at this point, it's like they were just adding people into this thing that really didn't make any sense, just so they can kill them off. Basically, it's like the whole remake of Stab. All those characters are being killed left, right, and center, and we got left with Parker Posey there for the end. So it's kind of like and they were just there so they can kill them off. So because you need to murder someone off every 10 to 15 minutes.
Getting woozy here.
So. And I think that's probably where this film. I'd be interesting to know if when James Gunn wrote this, was he forced into adding this stuff in? Because you got to remember, this is Dawn of the Dead. The original is basically an independent film, and this is a studio film. And so with a studio film, you do have things that you have to fit in, sort of thing. You have to
it was Toronto's Thornhill Square. You're right. I totally space shot at that one. It was scheduled to be demolished before the producers of the film jumped in and secured the property for filming, and were giving full access to abandoned mall and extensive re-motivated for the film. But a lot of the anchor stores did not want they had some stores showing their logo and their name, but some of them, because of the violence of the movie, did not want their name shown.
Did you guys catch
Julius?
Did you guys catch the name of the high-end clothing store that the women are in?
I forget.
The store is called Galen Ross.
Okay.
I didn't notice that.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
She's the only one that didn't show up, I think. So I guess this was kind of like their little tribute to her.
There was a big stores back then. It was called Barbara Moss back in the day, but I don't even think that they would be here for that. They're closed since, so those definitely.
Is Galen Ross proud of her work that she did in Dawn of the Dead, though?
I think she's one of those people that I don't know. I can't
see her do interviews or anything.
She, everything I see, I see her comment on stuff because I have a few mutual friends who have worked with her. I never really see her talk about her horror stuff because it's really just this and the slasher movie Madman. That came out in 81. That's the only two movies that I think I know.
So she's just into production and producing or direction.
She does
documentaries.
Yeah, she does
documentaries. Okay.
She's really successful at it. I want to say she's probably either won or been nominated for a couple of Oscars.
Cool.
Let me just be sure here. I'm looking her up right now, Galen Ross.
If I've watched any of her stuff, we watch a lot of documentary stuff.
Award. I mean, she's never won an Academy Award, but she wins a lot of stuff for her documentary film, best documentary, audience award for best documentary from every major film festival. So yeah, she's doing really well for herself.
Fantastic.
I know that she's not in any documentaries about Dawn of the Dead or George Romero.
I never see her talk about these movies.
When she has nothing like that. Well, they have come out, but I mean, she hasn't been behind any of it.
But it's been like Alexander Milky from Dark Shadows. She doesn't really talk about Dark Shadows. Well, she's
also winning awards.
She's an acclaimed documentary maker as well. So I'm just kind of wondering maybe that she kind of
was she the Jonathan Frid documentary? Keith?
No.
Was Alexander Moltke in the
She doesn't talk about Dark Shadows.
She wasn't in the Jonathan Frid thing, so she.
Yeah, she doesn't talk about Dark Shadows. She's a serious documentary filmmaker now. That's in the past.
Yeah, well, I was just wondering. I couldn't remember if I saw her in the documentary that Mary had made or not.
Well, a lot of them do that. That's why it's such a sigh of release and rejoice when like Susan Sarandon embraces Rocky Horror, because a lot of people of her caliber wouldn't do that. But
what's not to embrace? It was positively fantastic.
well, if it's like Renee Zellweger never mentions Leatherface, does she?
No.
Or Matthew McConaughey.
Or Viggo Mortensen.
Oh, definitely Matthew McConaughey. No, I didn't even know he was in that movie until I found it and watched it because I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of the actors they'll do films, and even though they'll have cult status, they won't even acknowledge that they even did it. You know what I mean? Even though they're in it and everyone knows about it.
That's sad because some of it's just good, clean fun. I always say that, but it's like you started somewhere. You didn't just hit the bricks running towards an Oscar or Golden Globe or an Emmy or whatever. You have to start somewhere.
It's a bit different nowadays. I mean, a lot of actors today, a lot of people now who are like established are going back into horror and they're bouncing back to TV and whatever. It's a bit different now, but there for a while. I mean, it's just like, but also you have to remember for video and DVD, you could pretty much say, "Oh, I didn't do that," because a lot of stuff to see it again would be like.
Sort of like Sylvester Stallone doesn't like talking about his porn days.
Stallion.
What's that?
But yeah, people were looking down on those movies. People were looking down on those movies back then, so I could totally see that because it especially if you're a star. In the case of McConaughey and Zellweger, they tried to actually stop the release of that Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No wonder I couldn't find it anywhere.
Oh, it's readily available now everywhere.
Well, I found it finally, but I mean, it wasn't readily available. Really, it was hard to find.
There's a lot of nipple piercing in that film. So
who got their nipples
McConaughey's
pierced?
the best thing in it.
Who? What happened?
McConaughey is the best thing in it. He said.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. He's very good actor, though. I mean, I've pretty much enjoyed all of his movies.
But you also have to remember that if you made a horror film, that could stop your career from going any further. That people would hire you.
Back then,
this is true. Boy, it's hard to believe that such a well-loved genre is such a taboo.
I mean,
and a stigma.
But it's only recently that Kevin Bacon's even talking about Friday the 13th, and Johnny Depp never mentions Nightmare on Elm Street.
No,
it just dawned on me about 6-7 years ago when I was watching Nightmare on Elm Street. That was Johnny Depp. I mean, I was like that short time ago. I did not know.
I find myself doing that a lot now when I rewatch older movies, and I'm like, oh wait, I didn't realize that was that person. I think it's because if you saw Nightmare on Elm Street back when it first came out, you didn't know who the hell Johnny Depp was because nobody knew who the hell Johnny Depp was. But now I find myself going back.
Huh?
The funny thing about Nightmare on Elm Street is that I went to the opening of that because I knew Heather Langenkamp very well because she went to the same college I went in Tulsa, Oklahoma. She was there when I was there before she went off to do the film. She said she's going off to make this film, and we're like, and then of course, so the grand opening was in New Orleans, and Johnny Depp was there. And I mean, I sat next to him, and it was nobody. I mean, we didn't. It's like if I knew now when I knew that, it'd be different. But it's like, he's just up there. He's just a moody person.
Oh, it was when I worked on Tony and Tina's Wedding as a production assistant in like 2003. Adrian Grenier was nobody. He was playing a minor role, and then while that movie was coming out, that's when Entourage came out, and suddenly he's just the biggest fucking star on the planet, just out of nowhere. And he's a guy that I was answering the phone and transferring over to,
cool.
To the producer. And what's his name? John Bernthal was in that. And I met him a couple of times coming into the office. Like the couple of days I worked into the office, he came in, and these people were, they weren't anybody big. But then 20 years later,
the only thing I can remember about about Johnny Depp during that. I mean, it says it was an opening, and then there, went out for drinks afterwards. It wasn't like anything huge. And I remember thinking that he was very Verity, and Heather going, and he always stood away from everyone. And Heather goes, "Oh, he thinks he's something special." Well, he didn't hang out. He didn't hang out with any of his staff because he was in that whole moody, I'm the next James Dean kind of thing.
Well, he was smart though when it came. He kept his nose clean for quite a while. That saves you, I think, too.
No, he was quite lucky because he got in bed with Tim Burton. That's what saved him.
He did what?
Not
literally.
Not literally.
Well, that we know of.
Well, we know of, but of the Tim Burton movies.
Johnny Depp's whole career is basically playing odd characters.
Do you think Edward Scissorhands was the one that did it, or prior?
Well, I mean, no, it was basically John Waters taking a chance on Johnny Depp for Crybaby that kind of spun it.
You guys like Crybaby? Did you guys like it?
I love Crybaby.
You love Crybaby?
I haven't seen it in a long time. I remember liking it.
I'm a John Waters fan, though. I love John Waters.
It's so weird. You have to like it in a straight. If you're into weird, it's definitely a good movie.
Oh, it's got Hatchet. I love Hatchet Face in it. She's brilliant.
Hatchet Face, yeah.
She's great.
Susan Terrell. It's got Joe Delasaro in it from the.
You either loved it. It was another one of those movies, but you loved it or you hate it. Soundtrack.
It got Patty Hearst in it. Only John Waters will put Patty Hearst in a film. fresh from her jailed her Stockholm syndrome.
Well, now that was about 20 years after the fact, since the SLA incident.
Yeah, because Crybaby was like 1990, 1991. The Patty Hearst was
1989.
89?
Hairspray was 86, and that was the next.
Well, didn't the Patty Hearst and the SLA kidnapping and all that shit happen in the 70s?
Those in the 70s.
78, something like that, yeah. Because I know the Patty Hearst movie was out by the end of the 70s. There was a Patty Hearst movie out at that time.
I didn't know they had Patty Hearst in that. Now I gotta fucking watch it again. Damn it.
Yeah, because because Crybaby was he just got out of doing 21 Jump Street. Then when did your cousin go into 21 Jump Street takes place?
That was Johnny Depp was still on it, but I think Johnny Depp was on his way out.
Yeah, because
that's when they were pushing Richard Grieco.
Yeah, they're pushing Richard Grieco now.
That's Vicky's cousin.
Well, we're all relatives.
Yeah.
Italians are related to everybody, okay? But
that's how Richard Grieco was your cousin.
Yeah, that's how Vicky learned to pluck her eyebrows from him.
Oh, stop it!
I
did the thin line for a while, okay? He had a lot. I hope he's not listening. But he had a lot work done. It's just like I didn't recognize him sometimes when he came home. Other people said he was supposed to be
a next best thing, but he picked like two really.
Well, he did. I used to like his show. What was it? The mid '90s. He was doing Booker. I watched that, and I've seen that they're pushing a lot of stuff now with him in it, and he's dressed as a pirate. I don't know what's going on. I mean, we've all lost touch. All of us kids from school back in the day, relatives and whatnot, and all that. But
Vicky used to be the babysitter for Viggo Mortensen as well.
Who?
Wait, really?
Didn't you used to babysit for Viggo? Didn't you babysit Viggo?
No, Jill used to take care of his elderly mother before she passed away.
Yeah, that was it.
And she goes, do you want Viggo's phone number? I think I still got it in my phone.
I was going to say, isn't Viggo Mortensen older than Vicky?
No, his mother was.
His mother. I knew.
He lives in Cape Vincent. He lives in the Thousand Islands. Everybody sees him back home. It's no big deal. People.
Vigo's from our side of the world.
He went to my high school and all that other stuff.
I didn't know.
His mother was ill, and one of my best friends was taking care of people back then, and she had his mother. And he was just really hard to work for. And she just told me all kinds of horrible stories about Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah.
But
I can see
couple of
getting
people that made well. I mean, there's a couple of people still trying to break the confines of upstate New York.
He did like our short film we made, so that was good. He did
that's true.
tweet about it once, so that was good. He liked our film we made.
I can see if somebody's a caretaker for your mother being really difficult and being like, no, I want to make
But
sure.
Jill was really good. But Jill was the kind of person that would take your shit. But she has all of his movies signed and shit like that. You know, say, can I have your movie collection? It's like, you know.
I'm just like, well.
But I was trying to figure out, I probably need to ask because I don't know too many people back home anymore. I don't hang out with anybody. But they did show Richard was doing this thing with pirates. I don't know what's going on with that.
Well, a lot of his stuff now, I think he's doing a lot in the made for TV realm now, isn't he?
Well, he was doing a lot for Hallmark kind of type films.
Yeah.
Things like that.
I think it's Hallmark. Yeah, Hallmark films.
Yeah,
but you made it big in Hallmark when which he hasn't done yet. When you make a Christmas movie for them, he hasn't done that yet.
Oh, my friend Katie, who's she's the girl that gets cut in half in Terrifier.
I love that movie.
She started doing a couple of those Hallmark Christmas movies now, and a lot of those are old horror guys directing them and writing them.
And they make good money off them as well.
The Sam does, Fredo and Ray does.
Yeah. And they pay their people good for those as well. They get really good paychecks for those.
Yeah,
I wouldn't spit at it right now. You fill my gas.
Well, I'm saying that it's better than like when they used to make TV movies like on ABC, CBS.
I know. I guess there's some kind of shame. I guess people think.
Well, it's not that they're ashamed to it, but the pay wasn't great. But Hallmark pays their for the Christmas movies because that's their big money maker. They pay those people very well. It's a good pay.
What's the other one? Hallmark. There's another.
Lifetime. And,
Lifetime. That's what Sam said he was doing.
The thing is, like, I never understood why people dude, take the job.
Yeah.
And especially a Hallmark Christmas movie, it's basically a template. If you watch them, they're all the same.
They're all the same. They're all the same.
Melissa Gilbert said that she does one Hallmark Christmas movie a year, and that pays her more than her salary for 1 year in Little House on the Prairie doing one movie for Hallmark Christmas movie.
There you go. Is that adjusted for inflation, by the way?
I don't know if I could do it, man. I got a reputation to uphold. I turned down $25,000 once for the movie rights to A Taste of Home from a Bollywood producer.
Bollywood.
Bollywood's good.
I didn't want my werewolf story told in Bollywood.
Well, Bollywood movies are starting to get big now.
Yeah,
too.
They are, but that's a redneck werewolf story, man. It does not work in Bollywood.
I tell you what,
yours is a redneck story. It needs to stay.
I went to a Bollywood version of Reservoir Dogs.
What?
Oh my god!
Yeah, and get this. What's that movie with Identity with John Cusack?
Right. Yeah.
Because my ex is a Sikh, and his mom used to watch a lot. She watched Indian films, and I remember she goes, "Oh, I got this new Indian film," and I can't remember the Indian name for it. So I'm watching it, and it's like going, "Oh my god, this is a Bollywood version of Identity," and they remake all the horror films in Bollywood, and they make millions, but they make millions.
Yeah, well, they only offered me $25,000, so I turned it down. But
yeah.
I could have knocked that off my bucket list, but I didn't.
Well, the thing is, no one was ever going to see it except for in India. But I mean, like the Reservoir Dogs one, I was like, I mean, it's not great. I mean, they start singing and dancing, and they're stirring the light bulb and patting the dog at the same time.
I see a lot of stuff coming out of Indonesia now. There's a lot of Indonesian horror too.
But the thing is like I watched this, and it's like that film made 200 million, like equivalent dollars or pounds or whatever. I was like, who the hell solved this? I haven't seen that, because it shows in all the Middle Eastern countries and all that stuff. It's huge, and it's like how much money they make. They make more than any Hollywood picture does. It's like made more than Titanic. It's like what?
Which movie?
The big world
Hollywood version of Reservoir Dogs.
No kidding.
It made like 200 million in its opening weekend.
There's a movie. The movie theater that I go to regularly has 3 or 4 screens showing Bollywood movies. So they are big business even here, which is why I hate that we have to kowtow to so many countries when we make our movies here. It's like, dude, I get it that not every movie needs to be made for every single audience.
No.
And I think it actually hurts us.
Especially when they get China with their nose and everything. They're always trying to put the kibosh on stuff.
Well, now I feel bad. Now I should have sold out. I should have
given the Chinese.
You could have sold out. No one would have known.
Yeah, I could have. I don't know. I would have known. Though.
I would have shit my pants.
I'm my worst critic.
If I'm watching a streaming channel, all of a sudden I see Taste of Home with a bunch of Indian people playing.
It wouldn't be called Taste of Home. It'd be called Laguja.
I'm at the point where I'm like, I'll take the job, whatever you want to throw my way. Christmas, yeah, fuck, I'll write your fucking Christmas. I'll write your porno if the check clears.
Yeah.
I've written song lyrics on some really cheesy stuff, and I was like, fine.
Think about the number of pornos we've written already for free. I mean, we just didn't write it down.
I'll write porno if it's going to pay my bills. I don't care. I'll write it. I mean, I won't put my name to it, but I'll, pay me whatever.
That's the thing.
I'm like that anyway. It's like I just like I go, how much does that pay? I don't care. I don't care.
So if there's any porn directors out there that want to make the porno version of the Taste of Home, I'm open.
Bring furry gloves.
Yes, lots of furry gloves.
Go for it. So on that note, let's rate 2004 Dawn of the Dead. Starting with you, Chad. What are you going to do? How many
if I'm going to rate this? If I'm gonna give the original 5, I mean this is still a good film. It's a good film.
It is.
And I'm gonna have to knock it down a couple of steps though, just for the whole modern. Well, I still think it's 2004. Sometimes it's not. It's 2022. But that more modern aspect of it, it's not necessarily a remake. Other than the name,
like a remake, though.
Yeah. Other than the name and the fact they go to a mall, it's not necessarily a remake. A lot of explosions, a lot of actions, some really good special effects, really good makeup and stuff like that.
For joke is sex, I guess.
Yeah, we'll give it 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. It could have used more boobs.
It needs more boobs. What about you, Joe?
I'm in the same boat, like somewhere between 3 and 4, because like Chad said, it's if you divorce it from the original Dawn of the Dead, it's fine. And if the only drawback I had is I watched it literally the night after I watched the original, and the original I think is so fucking perfect.
It is hard watching them back to back. I'll give you that.
Yeah, this one pales in comparison, but on its own,
it's okay.
Movie. Lots of action. It's 2 completely different movies. The first one is more of a horror movie with a social commentary. This is kind of like an action horror.
Yeah, it's like shoot 'em up Rambo kind of gunplay.
In a way, yeah. So they're 2 completely different movies.
Rambo goes to the mall.
in a way, yeah. So they're 2 different movies. So yeah, you get there's totally. Oh God, I'm starting to sound like PJ Souls in Halloween. Totally. Both are good. Watch them both. I say definitely see both of them. If you divorce the idea that this is a Dawn of the Dead remake, you're going to enjoy it even more.
I just don't even think of it as a Dawn of the Dead remake when I watch it. I don't. It's so totally different.
That's the biggest thing that I'm going to tell them. That I'm going to say right now. Kudos to them is. They could have made this a Romero
extravaganza.
They could have made a copy paste job, and they didn't. They did their own thing, and you know what? Good for them for doing it. Because it works a lot better than if they would have just tried to redo the whole thing again.
Gotcha. I agree with that.
And what do yourself, Vic? What do you rate it?
I'd give it a 4, just because I could have used a little more storyline in it. But it was a tad bit disorganized when it comes to the story. But I guess all of these movies are just helter-skelter running around killing, zombies and trying to survive. But I've never really thought of this as Dawn of the Dead, like George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. So I guess I've already achieved that, which I was talking about, and totally divorced one from the other. And because it's really a totally different movie, I just think it's a lot of fun. So, I mean, I wouldn't put it down too much. I mean, it's a lot of fun to watch, and there's really, the ending's kind of sucking, but other than that, it was a good movie.
I'm going to give it 4. A lot of it I like a lot. I like the acting, and I'll give the acting kudos as well for this. Sarah Polley, if she wasn't in it, I'd probably give it less, but I love Sarah Polley. I'm a huge fan of hers, and it was good to see her in a mainstream film for once. So, I'll give this a 4. And I think that if you're going to make a remake of any kind of film, I think this is the way to do it. That basically, I think that sometimes if you do a direct remake to something, it does suffer. Where I think this way, this kind of balances off the original, but it keeps the original as its own thing, and then you have your remake as its own product within itself as well. So I'm going to give this a 4. So that brings us to the end of the Literature License podcast. Next week will be the 80s. We'll be discussing Night of the Creeps and Night of the Comet. And, of course, we'll be continuing on with our Dark Shadows. Now, next month, our book to screen will be Battle Royale, the classic Japanese, written by Takame, which is the only book he's written. And the book has sold more copies than the Bible. And, of course, we'll be covering the original Japanese film Battle Royale as well. And, of course, our next remake will be something totally out of our horror realm. We'll be covering La Cage aux Folles, the French film, and the American remake, The Birdcage. So it's good night for myself, and good night, Chad, and thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me once again.
Cool beans.
Good night, Joe.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Vicky.
Good night, everybody.
And we'll be seeing you next week for the 80s for Night of the Comet and Night of the Creeps. Good night, y'all.
Down with the sickness, come on, get down. among